All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Can I have a roll call?
Yes, President Zuka,
Here.
Vice President Jordan. Here. Director Schmidt,
Here.
Director Wheeler,
Here.
Director Vella.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great, thank you very much. If I could ask Director Schmidt to lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Here we go. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Speaking any public comment?
No comments.
Okay. Any agenda items to be pulled from consent?
Not to pull consent item, but I wanted to ask if we could move director report to at least let me do my director report before item 8.3,
8.3 certainly.
which I will be recusing myself from item 8.3.
Eight.
Our
8.8C.
8E, sorry.
8E. Okay. Why don't we do it right after? Why don't we just do it right after consent? And then you can go, and then we'll close it out. That's all good.
Well, I will be around
You'll be
before
around
and after 8E.
for.
I'll
Okay, got it.
just accusing myself
Okay.
in that one.
You got it. So we'll do direct reports after. Yeah. Very good. Acknowledge the presentation. So item 4A.
So the first is a presentation by Katie Martin, who is one of two special district representatives on San Mateo County LAFCO. And I have been very fortunate to actually know and work with Katie for over 10 years now, serving on the Mosquito District Board. She was secretary and I was assistant secretary. She was president and I was vice president. And she's wonderful to work with. She's also been on LAFCO for, she'll share with how long, but I remember, you know, when Virginia Chang Carolee came and she was running for the other special district position. I know that you all appreciated seeing and getting to know her. And I think, you know, there were some kind of comments related to, you know, how we hadn't heard from our representatives before. And I was like, well, I know our representative very well. And she is wonderful public servant. She's not, have you ever run for anything elected? I don't think so, right? But she's done a lot for her community. So I thought it'd be helpful to have her share who she is, her experience, and any questions about LAFCO you all may have.
Great. Good. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you. Incredibly familiar.
I get that a lot, but we might, I mean, I've been in the Bay Area, this area for like 30 plus years.
Oh, you've
So
probably been to CSDA stuff. I may have seen you.
maybe, yeah,
That's
it's been a while since I've been to one of those events.
Me too.
But yeah,
Me too.
yeah.
Okay, my name is Katie Martin. I live in Half Moon Bay. I've lived in the Bay Area for about 22 years now. Coming from Southern California, where I was on the planning commission down there. I'm a lawyer by trade, very retired. I have 8 children. I always like to drop that. 13 grandkids and 3 great grandkids.
Wow.
With regard to LAFCO, I would really like this to be more of a conversation than me just, you know, telling you stuff that you're not going to remember anyway. Okay. I served on 5 grand juries here in the county. One of it, I think it was the very first one that I served on. Wrote a report that I was not involved in. I was not on that committee. If anybody, has anybody here ever been on a grand jury? Oh, it's great fun. If you ever have an opportunity, it's great fun. One of the committees was writing a report about my beloved Mosquito District because they had had a pretty bad fraud where one of the employees stole almost $1 million from the district. Thanks. They had not had a representative from Half Moon Bay because it's a long way to go to a board meeting in Burlingame for like 10 years. So I applied, like we all do, you know, to get on board. And they said, yes, yes, yes. And I've been there since 2000, 10, I believe, maybe 11. It's quite a few years. Been to a lot of CSDA stuff, a lot of LAFCO stuff. I'm not an expert, but know a bit about how LAFCO works and what its importance is. And I think having looked at all the board's bios on your website, you guys know what LAFCO does. Yeah. Do you know how we elect people? Or how the commission works in terms of rotation and things like that? Or is comprised, who sits on that board?
I mean, there's obviously city council and special district representatives, but to be honest with you,
Right, there are two supervisors, and they rotate then amongst themselves. 2 city representatives, 2 special districts, and 1 at large.
That's right.
At large meaning the county that's not represented by a city. And thank you very much.
The best water you're gonna have.
I'm sorry.
It's the best water you're gonna have.
No.
It is.
We all got our job the same way. It's not a political appointment. You ask to serve. And LAFCO attempts to be at all times as unpolitic as possible. I was looking at your board package. Our board package costs $10 to send it to me in Half Moon Bay. I mean, they're huge because what we deal in is facts and nothing but facts. Nobody gets, we're paid $100 every 2 months. You know, nobody's there for money. Are there any questions about what I've said up till now? Because again, I don't have any prepared remarks because Kat told me that there was kind of a special issue here. And what can I answer for you?
Earlier you mentioned jury investigation.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
grand jury?
The grand jury.
So, yeah, the grand jury. So how do you parallel an investigation between your investigation and the criminal investigation? Because obviously the embezzlement had a criminal element to it, you know, so what kind of investigation do you do that the criminal did not cover? The
Are you
criminal
talking
side?
about being on the grand jury?
Correct.
The grand jury in this county is a civil grand jury. That's all we have in California. Grand juries were eliminated when the district attorney model came into being. There is a criminal facility in the grand jury called that's how often we use it. A few years ago.
But people on the grand jury usually don't have any criminal background. That's what I was getting at, you know.
Any criminal background?
Correct.
Oh,
To-
heavens no.
To do a criminal investigation. Okay, all right.
Oh, doing criminal investigations? Yes, there have been some police officers. Myself, I'm a lawyer, you know, I did all kinds of law. But most of the time it's, you know, you and you and you and you. You don't have anything to do, so you go to get on a grand jury. You're well trained for that by the California Grand Jury Association.
Which you did some of the training for.
Huh?
You were a trainer, weren't you?
Yes, I was for a while. Probably the most important person in the room for the first couple of weeks is county council, because they get you familiar with the law. This state doesn't really have grand juries any longer. It really has to be a special circumstance for them to convene a criminal grand jury. Los Angeles still has it occasionally, the bigger cities, but usually it's the district attorney who does that investigation. What a civil grand jury does is take a look at county government, small special districts, cities, to see whether or not they are doing what they promised the public to do, that they are going to do. The reason that I joined it was because I thought the mosquito district is an absolute necessity in a county like this, where we're surrounded by water. And I just thought it would be good to get that district back online, you know, get them more involved with the CSDA, better financial practices. And I think we've done a really spectacular job. For 5 years running, we've gotten a special district association, transparency, education, and financial.
And the district of distinction. The
And
district of
district of distinctions, yes. So we're doing pretty well, but it required a lot of years, a lot of turnover in personnel that didn't need to be there. The news was, in the end, was kind of good with well, it was as good as it could be. The judge in the perpetrator's case made her sell her house and pay us back. Which was really, yeah, and we did have some insurance on it. So primarily what we paid for that was attorney fees. I hope that answers your question.
So with respect to the LAFCO's sort of agenda, it's sort of non-political, but I think at the formation of LAFCO, and this goes back before I ever was involved in politics, at least as I understand it, there used to be sort of this perception that LAFCO was pro-city, anti-special district. And I'm just curious if you could sort of talk about, like, you know, how does the representation now? What is there any kind of one form of government versus the other? You know, or has there been in the past, or, you know, and
I know that LAFCO has had that reputation in this county. I don't know whether or not it has that reputation elsewhere. Excuse me. And I really don't know why that is, because there is no mandate to do away with special districts. On the contrary, I know that the state wants consolidation in many things, and sometimes that makes sense. But the people elected you. They created you for a purpose, and they elected you. And I, for one, and the board that I serve with right now, feels the same way I do, I think, that we don't want to take away from the public what the right to say yes or no to have a district. Combination of, let's see, like 15 years of working in this county, special district has, well, now I guess it's two special districts have gone by the by.
Yeah.
Los Troncos Water, and they were not working with water anymore. They were like a healthcare district right now. They were gathering money and using it for good purposes. But the board decided that they wanted to.
yeah, I think also because their rates were so astronomically high,
Yeah.
and they're looking at their capital investment going, we're going to be charging $1,000 a month. This doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no need for it.
Yeah.
Almost everybody up in that area is hooked up to, you know, to River City.
Yeah.
The other one is the East Palo Alto Sanitary District, which is under my, I'm the board, you know, president of the board right now. And that has happened while I've been there. And the service that LAFCO provided was an investigation, a municipal service review. I don't know if you've ever had one for this district. Have
It's
you?
been a while.
We did.
What's that?
There's been no complaints apparently about what we're doing here.
Municipal service.
Yeah.
I think it's been a while.
It's been a while.
Not since I've been
Yeah.
in this position, or, you know anything about San Mateo County. The issues there were a multitude, but they were in a kind of special situation. When the city of East Palo Alto was created, they created the water district around the same time. And they were kind of supporting them in the beginning. So they kind of struck a deal. This is very, very broad, spreading the seeds that I'm doing it here. That the council would have the right to bring that operation back in-house if they felt it was necessary. And that is what has happened. It started with some developers not being able to get an okay from the district out there to build. They wouldn't issue a permit. And their practices of district, developer A had to pay this, and developer B had to pay that. In the investigation that was done, MSR, with specialists this time, because they had to look at the pipes, we found that the pipe system was not, that big fund that they had was not being used appropriately. So what LAFCO does is just say, this is what we found, and give it to the city council. The city council made the decision to bring it back in. The people at East Palo Alto Sanitary District did not like that, of course, and we did not want to take, again, we did not want to take the will of the voters away from them. So there is a whole process that takes up this much of the enabling legislation for this organization on how to dissolve a district. It's very, very, very difficult. This one wasn't as difficult because we had a successor agency to take them right over. So. What other?
My background has been more in Santa Clara County, and there was a big issue regarding sphere of influence type of things between the cities. And a lot of it was resolved a long time ago, but they at least got a line on a map. The issue that has always been around is sometimes the utilities don't always match up with the sphere of influence issues.
And those are typically those are the issues that we deal with on a monthly basis, is whether or not we want to allow that boundary to be, if it makes sense to have that boundary broken.
Right.
This organization was created really for Los Angeles. In the 50s and the 60s, building was like the Wild Wild West. And people were encroaching on other people's property without any repercussions. So the state formed for the entire state the LAFCO system, where if you want to cross a border for whatever reason, you have to put it through the process that we serve. The best way when I was teaching, I would use this example. Let's say Half Moon Bay, right at Miramontes Point Road, which is the southern border, decides that they want to park right across in the county, right across the street. And everybody involved is fine with doing that. But it changes the sphere of influence for Half Moon Bay, because now they are responsible for that ground and what happens to it. So it goes through this process. Everybody that has any kind of dog in the game looks at it, brings it to LAFCO, and we make a decision about whether or not we will recommend that and whether it requires the vote of the people. I mean, most of the stuff that we look at is, in Emerald Hills, people are building homes up there and they don't have a water system. So, they have to ask us if they can go into the street, which belongs to the city of Redwood City, and dig it up. And that's the primary thing. The MSR process really is for us to see whether or not people are in trouble. We have one district right now that is in trouble. And I'm not telling stories out of school. This is all, public information. Broadmoor Protection, the Police Protection District is in trouble. And we have been trying and trying and trying to help them get solvent. We don't want the people in Broadmoor to not have police, or certainly we don't want the sheriff's department to have responsibility for that. They would have to hire more, and it creates all kinds of problems. So we've been working with the general manager there and their board to see if there are any ways that we can retain that, even in the light of the state wanting to get rid of those types of special districts. In this particular case, some of the deputies are not, they're sworn, but they may have been sworn at a different police department. They know how to police, but it's a little hinky. So but we are trying very hard to save that district rather than get rid of it. Our reputation for wanting to, the sphere of influence, I think, is misunderstood. For years, the Harbor District had no sphere of influence. And what that means is it doesn't look like they're gonna grow. You know, they're the district for the whole county. The Mosquito District has no sphere of influence. It's not going to change.
That's a good interpretation of sphere of influence. I don't think I quite ever put that precise definition on it.
I really didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I said that's a good definition of sphere of influence. I've never put quite that precise a definition on it. About why the counties would be zero.
Yeah, it just means that there's probably not going to be any growth.
No.
It doesn't mean that you're a bad district and we want you gone.
Got it.
Special districts really are dear to my heart because when I lived in San Diego, I lived way away from the world, and special districts kept my house running.
Mhm.
They are very important. I think they keep the county honest, the cities honest. No shenanigans, you know. People who work in special districts are very protective of their sphere of influence. And I think that's a good thing.
Very good. Any questions for Katie? Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to meet, you know, one of the LAFCO representatives, and appreciate the insights.
I'm concerned, if I may, that Kat kind of said that the visit from one of my colleagues on the board left an impression that she was politicking. She is running for a state office, and it may not be clear how people get elevated to that. You really kind of have to run for office, even though it's not, no one votes on it except the people who are involved, like this district, my district. You know. I think it would concern her that you would think that she was politicking. Can I take any? I don't. I'm sure she doesn't know anything about this, but are you concerned with her or the approach that she brought to you?
I think I might have misspoke, but it was like so what I intended was she came because she was running for the special district office. And so she was
see.
coming around to various.
Not
and
otherwise.
yeah, which, you know, is not the typical practice for the representatives on LAFCO. So, you know, as a result, because we don't have a lot of direct contact with the LAFCO representatives unless you just happen to, it's kind of a black box. And you know, she was running for that seat at the time. So I thought it was a good opportunity to.
Okay, that's quite a different dynamic.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I misspoke, but that was what I.
Guilty as charged. We don't go out talking to people. Certainly the supervisors don't. I think the cities have their own organization where they meet on a pretty common basis. But maybe, do you guys belong to the, what is it called? I used to be the president of that.
CSDA.
The San Mateo, what is it?
There's a San Mateo County arm of the CSDA, which recently got restarted. So we're participating in that.
Right, that's what it was, yeah. And they did come out and talk more often. Well, I will talk with the alternate for my position and Virginia and get out more.
Great.
Yeah, I'll just add that I don't see anything inappropriate for someone looking to us to represent us to come and talk to us. Not a
Okay,
problem at all.
okay, great. I
Yes, in fact,
misunderstood.
a lot of times we have to vote on people that we've never seen or heard
Yeah.
speak or whatever, based upon what we might know about them otherwise. So it's actually kind of helpful to at least
Right.
be able to put a face to a name, when as a board, we're taking a formal action. So I found it useful as well. I didn't get the sense that it was, a political visit. It was
I think I
more-
misunderstood.
Yeah.
I don't think it was her.
No, totally understood. So, well, great. Thank you again for your time. It was
My
a pleasure
pleasure.
having you here.
Sorry, my
And-
face got red.
Oh, it's
It
okay.
did, yeah. It did.
It's the pressure of the, speaking in front of a board.
Oh,
We haven't done it before.
Yeah.
I like-
Well, thank you.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for
All
being
right.
such a good advocate for us.
Well, I try to be, I believe in the special district system, I
Mhm.
really do, and certainly like being on the LAFCO board, a lot of really interesting stuff comes in front of us. And I'm staying there as long as I'm on the mosquito district.
Yeah.
Part of my last meeting on this. Okay,
Great.
Thank
Have a great
Thank you so
evening.
much. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
thanks.
Okay.
Pat.
On to item 4B.
All right.
Big sigh.
This is a bittersweet item. Recognizing Monique Robinson on her last days as a district employee for her retirement, but also celebrating her. So I was gonna suggest that Allison read the proclamation that we put together, and then a few of us had to speak.
Great.
Proclamation honoring Administrative Services Manager Monique Robinson upon her retirement from the Mid-Peninsula Water District. Whereas Monique Robinson served the Mid-Peninsula Water District generously for 4 years in multiple roles, beginning as a part-time management analyst in 2020 and adeptly assuming the role of Administrative Services Manager and District Secretary in 2022. And whereas Monique began her career in public service at the Templeton Community Services District for more than 2 years and continued her service at the Cambria Community Services District for 19 years, serving in a variety of key integral functions, including billing, payroll, accounts payable, human resources, risk management, and interim general manager. And whereas the district, its staff, and its management are uniquely fortunate to have been the beneficiaries of Monique's deep and vast experience and knowledge of special district administration and leadership, cultivated through decades of dedicated public service. Her unwavering commitment to excellence has ensured that the Mid-Peninsula Water District has not only met but exceeded expectations in serving our community. And whereas Monique Robinson served the district and our community with a passion for stellar customer service, placing the needs of residents and stakeholders first, and with an unmatched dedication to fiscal responsibility, ensuring that the district's resources were managed with the utmost care and integrity. She has fostered a culture of continuous professional growth within the organization, encouraging her colleagues and staff to strive for excellence and to embrace opportunities for development and leadership. And whereas Monique has been a mentor to many, providing guidance, support, and encouragement to those fortunate enough to work with her, thereby shaping the next generation of leaders within the district. Her unwavering commitment to public transparency has set a high standard for ethical governance and accountability, while her emphasis on procedural rigor has ensured that the district's operations run smoothly and efficiently, safeguarding the public trust. And whereas through her detailed, knowledgeable, and direct leadership, the actions listed above, and many more, she has consistently elevated the standards of public service within the district. She leaves behind an enduring legacy with the district and without any doubt will continue to do so with all of her future endeavors. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Mid-Peninsula Water District express our sincere appreciation and gratitude for Monique's dedication and commitment to the district, congratulate her on the occasion of her retirement from the district, and wish her the best of continued success in her retirement and future endeavors.
I wonder if she's frozen.
Leave the lights on. She was in the dark a few minutes ago.
And unfortunately, she planned to be here, but really bad timing. She's not feeling well, so couldn't make it.
Got
to
up
be
to
here
walk
in person
away.
today. Oh, no.
I was gonna turn on the light, but I'm like, I don't even know where the light switch is.
Maybe you had something better to do, something on TV, I don't know.
It'll be nice to see you.
All right, let me find one.
Please don't go to your parties.
He's got the fan on too.
Better?
Sure.
Wonderful. Okay. So Monique and I actually started at the district at the same time. Of course, she was management analyst before, but she assumed the ASM role about the same time. I came on as assistant GM. So it was a really kind of interesting dynamic working with her and growing with her, right? So she was, figuring out exactly what the ASM role meant to this district and this team. At the same time, I was figuring out everything about the district. So, kind of a partner in learning and a mentor at the same time in many ways. And, throughout these last few years, she's been so generous with her time, sharing with me, all of her past experiences and her approaches to issues, her views, the facts and the way to think about it. Always taking time to walk me through how and why she felt the way she did about a particular problem, identifying all options and throwing them on the table, often very creative options, so many options. Sometimes it was overwhelming how many options there would be. But, that's just because she brings so much experience to the table and has that great ability to look at every angle that she comes up with things that, no one else might. And I understand that it was one of these creative solutions and suggestions that ultimately actually resulted in the creation of the assistant GM position, and ultimately my joining the district. So, Monique, I am so grateful to you on so many different levels. But I'm absolutely thrilled that you're able to retire and relax and enjoy your time. Stop having to think about all the risk and the bad and the potential, and just live in the now, enjoy the now with your kids and grandkids and your new dog that you're getting. It'll be wonderful. You've earned your retirement and then some. So I just want to say thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Kat.
Yeah, I'd like the next opportunity. Monique, just remind the board that the previous general manager, Tammy always had this knack for knowing people. I mean, she brought me here because she'd spent a little time with me. She spent a lot more time with Monique than she did with me, but she knew that there were some characteristics that we had that she thought would benefit the district overall. And I know that when Monique came, some of the shoes she was going to fill was, as Kat was mentioning, the administrative services manager, when Candy retired. And my observations, based on what I could see from Monique's years of experience working in the public sector, was that she was able to bring out some of the characteristics some of our staff had that just hadn't come out. I'm not sure what it was or why they hadn't come out, but Monique has this skill set, and I thought she did a really nice job. And I've just seen a lot of change in some of our long-term employees that have been here for a while and just hadn't quite gotten all that out of them yet, but Monique knew how to do it. So I appreciated that. And I think Kat made a good point too, that I think Monique was one of the people that came up with the idea of the assistant general manager role to bring our current general manager to the district. So, it just shows her years of experience. Plus she has a sense of humor. And it's always good to have somebody with a sense of humor. You need that when you work, but hardworking, dedicated public servant. I'm glad to see that she's able to retire in good health, I hope. And sounds like you're going to be busy with the new little one, a new dog. And I wish you the best, in your retirement and next phase of your life, spending time with your loved ones. So we're going to miss you, and maybe we'll see you sometime up in the Bay Area or in the Central Valley or the Central Coast, Monique.
Thank you, Rena.
And I think Juven
If I may.
Go ahead, Julie.
Thank you. So I have two things that I wanted to say. One is Tammy sent a note to me to read for Monique, and then I have what I want to say. So Monique, I want you to listen to this with the lens of Tammy yelling at me. So how about that? So
Sounds good.
bravo. Oh, let me I have a little bit of slow internet, so I apologize for that. Bravo, Monique. I wish you peace and good life in retirement. You were overqualified for the job when I called you back in 2020 and the COVID pandemic was in full swing. But you came with the experience of an interim general manager and your career background. You came to work with us at Mid-Peninsula Water District. A year and a half later, in January 2022, I asked you to come out of retirement and accept the appointment as Administrative Services Manager. And you agreed and agreed to take on the task and extreme detail work, busy nature of that position, even though you were more than qualified. When I retired in 2023, you stayed on because you knew the workload was great and was important to Mid-Peninsula Water District organization as an experienced member of the management transition team. You worked with staff at Mid-Pen and streamlined and organized so many processes in payroll, human resources, accounting, record keeping, and just recently billing, and while caring for employees, management, and the board, and your own duties as leader for the administrative team. Even as you neared retirement this week, you were still giving it all. Such humility, dedication, and loyalty, Monique, seriously. 30 plus years of public service, you're a true servant. You have a true servant's heart. I learned a lot from you, Monique, and your support for me while I was general manager was sincerely appreciated. I'm so proud of you and your team's hard work and achievement. The Mid-Peninsula Water District is a better place because of your time there, and it was such an honor for you to be part of the team. That's, I think, sincerely from Tammy. It's hard to top that. Obviously, I want to say what a pleasure it's been to work with you, and I want to say how much I learned from you and how much I will take forward in my career with the things that I picked up from you. You've touched this organization and the people in this organization, more importantly, in more ways than you know. Not like physically touch them, don't get like human resources concerned there, but
Way to make it awkward, Juven.
yeah. But there's a lot of people that learned a lot from you in this organization, and me being one of them. And I really appreciate that. I appreciate your humility and your time. So thank you so much for the opportunity to say the words I did.
Thank you, Juven.
And then Michael's also on.
Michael.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Well, a lot has already been said, and I truly appreciate all the words that I've heard. I'm still trying to decide what I want to share and don't want to share because I feel a lot of humor coming out of me right now. But I just want to say truly that it's been great working with Monique. As Kat mentioned, the options. I mean, anytime I've gone to Monique for anything, she's like, well, you can do this, you can do that, or you can do this, or there's this. And then the next day there's like 5 or 6 more. And it's like, okay, 2 options that I can work with. Like, I don't need 10 or a lot, So she's very experienced, and she just so very helpful. And, like Rena mentioned, the sense of humor. Oh my goodness. When Monique first started, I didn't know what to think. Tammy brought her in the middle of COVID, and I wasn't sure. I mean, there wasn't the in-person interaction until we had a national night out. And that was the first time I really spoke to Monique, and just seeing her energy and her sense of humor and just all of that was just like, okay, like, yeah, Monique's good. She fits right in. It was great to you know, honestly, even after that, because, you know, even a lot of the other employees were like, yeah, what's up with this Monique? And after that national night out, I was like, oh, no, she's good. She's good. Like, just talk to her. It'll be a fun experience. Just talk to her. She's crazy. She's fun. So, you know, it's been a great experience meeting Monique and working with Monique. And I have, oh boy, I have some inside jokes that I'd love to share, but I'd hate to see her get fired before her retirement date. But honestly, all in all, it's been fun. It's too bad that, you know, it has to come to an end professionally, but I can honestly say that Monique's become a friend to me, and I look forward to Monique. I look forward to just continuing to, you know, I know you just told me the other day, hopefully it's okay for me to share maybe it's not, but your, the property you purchased with your son. I think that's awesome. The things that you're looking forward to doing in retirement. I think it's great. And I know you're going to get it right this time with retirement, and you're going to enjoy it and love it. And I'm really happy for you. So thank you so much. And I look forward to hearing how much you enjoy your retirement.
Thank you, Michael.
Any other comments from the people on? Okay, board members?
Of course.
You're leaning back. I know you want to say something.
I'm impressed, Monique, you know, 4 years here and you have a legacy. That's great, you know. My first 4 years, nobody knew how I was in the public service. That's good. But obviously,
They still might not
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
they still
30
don't know,
years
yeah,
later.
after 40 years, you know.
Yeah, there you go.
So, which is fine, but obviously it's different. You came, you hit the ground running. I remember exactly when you started. But the one thing that I remember most about Monique is the Christmas party we had at the Iron Gate. And we were drawing the raffles and the drum rolls, and she was all over the place. She was the life of the party. That was fun, right?
That was fun.
But no, seriously, we talked a lot about how much Monique likes to joke and all that, but when she puts her head down to work, I mean, you could tell the quality of work, the experience will show right away, and the words of advice that sometimes she holds back, but you know that she knows more. So all you have to do is just let her lead, and she will guide you in the right direction. So I've appreciated the time that I've had with you, 4 years, but it's time to go to a new life, a different life, and I wish you all the best, Monique, and good health and all power to you. Take care. Congratulations.
Thank you, Louis.
Go ahead.
So Monique, I just want to say thank you for welcoming me when I came in, whenever it was I did, 2021. But I, just in listening and to what everyone's saying, I do echo like what a successful career you have. And I guess the one thing you did fail at was retirement, which I'm glad you did, because then you came back. So that's, I guess, a good failure. But if I didn't know better, walking into the district, I would have thought you would have been one of those 25-year people because of the camaraderie and the relationships that you had with all of the people here. So kudos to you for just who you are as a person, as a human being, that you fit right in, and you know, you passed the Michael Anderson test, so that was really good. So that he had your back right away. You've always been for me a wealth of knowledge, someone that if I didn't know something, I was like, well, I could text Monique and she'll tell me right away. So I've appreciated that you've been my advisor. You've been kind of that 411 phone call when I needed some help. You did the job of probably 5 people. I think with the proclamation, we should print out the job description, because I kid you not,
when we were posting it, I was like, how does she do all of this? So the fact that you did that many jobs and you did it all with high caliber and very successfully, that you leave this legacy behind and, you know, big shoes for people to fill. And I personally, for one, really appreciated how you always treated me like a friend. And so I look at you as not just someone I worked with, but a friend that I made when we both ended up joining MPWD. So best of luck to you in retirement. I hope when you come to the Bay Area, you give us a call and we could share a meal and share some fun times and share some laughs. But good luck in having a new puppy. Get some sleep before the puppy comes. And yeah, just all the best to you. And thank you so much for everything you've done for us.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, just briefly, Monique, I was thinking that a lot of our employees here, it's almost a black box to me, how they do their work. I'm just a step above our residents who turn on the faucet and the water comes out. And it's great. Everything that happens is great. With you, Monique, it's a little bit different because you've dealt with us so directly. The vast majority of your job was still black box to me, but the parts that you dealt with me were great. So that's all I wanted to say. Really appreciate it. Thank you for all the work and all the service you've done, and best of luck for whatever's next.
Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, I wanted to say that I was particularly impressed with how quickly you got into our way of doing business and supporting Tammy when we had that big vacancy that we had to fill. And there were a lot of things that nobody quite understood what was being done. Having been the treasurer of an organization and having to deal with the books and the accounting system, it is not an easy thing to step into sight unseen. So you saved us a lot of time and effort with your expertise, and probably saved Tammy's sanity for quite a bit. So we've enjoyed having you there. I've always enjoyed interacting with you. Obviously, we as board members didn't interact that often, but when we did, it was always very enjoyable. So best of luck in retirement. And I hope you'll have a great time. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk.
And I'll close it out. I mean, I remember when Tammy announced that there was someone that she had worked with at Cambria that was coming, you know, to join the district. And, you know, the first thought that goes through me is like, oh, great, we got a friend of a friend coming to work for the district, right? And of course, that was sort of my pessimistic brain going into action. I will say that having been on this board for, God, 25 years now, it's a ridiculous amount of time. I've seen a number of incarnations of sort of the role that you fulfilled. And I can honestly say that, you know, to use the analogy that Kathy used, you know, big shoes, that's not a commentary on the feet so much as it is the fact that you defined the role here and what it could be. It went from other things that morphed and other sort of, I'd say, niche responsibilities to this is what the administrative service manager position is in the district. And probably you overdid the job description, and we might have liability associated with that. I'm not sure. I'll look at district council, but you really did define the role here and what it was, and it is going to be difficult to fulfill because it was so well done, and you did so much for the district. So thank you. I'm jealous. I want retirement 1.0, much less 2.0. And so, you know. But good luck with the dog and the puppy. If you were here tonight, we would have something for you to walk away with. We don't, you're not here. But we'll figure out a way to make that up.
Yeah. And well, you are always welcome to come, Bay Area. We hope you come to future barbecues in the summer. Any events we have, you are always invited.
Picnic on Saturday, maybe,
Well, so if I could just say a few words. First of all, I'm very humbled and honored by all of the kind
oh, sorry.
words. What?
Nothing.
Oh, there was a
Delay.
delay.
I said, no, you can't say anything.
Oh, okay.
Kidding.
But I am very humbled by all of your compliments. Thank you so much. I would first like to say it was really a very big pleasure to work with such a cohesive and caring board. You guys really do show how much you care about the community and the staff, and that's really just such a pleasure to work with a board like that. And then thank you to Kat for honoring me like this. I really do appreciate it. It's very nice. So I knew that I kind of had to overcome that little issue of having known Tammy before. And it was pretty obvious when I started that there was some questions. But, you know, I just was myself, and thankfully Michael and I did hit it off at N&L, and then I realized, or everybody else realized, that I wasn't a bad guy. So it was fun. I really enjoyed working there for the 4 years that I've been there. I am getting a dog, but I don't know if you all know, but my dog died while I was working there. But I'm not getting a puppy. He'll be about 2 years old. So I'm not as crazy as I might look. He's my son's dog, but he wanted to get rid of him, and I asked him to wait till I retired and I would take him. So that's what I'm doing.
Very good. Yeah. Well, thank you again. Yeah, hopefully, an agenda item and a proclamation is sort of pales in comparison to the contributions that you provided the district. So thank you. And you're welcome to stay on the rest of the night. If I was, maybe wouldn't, but that's your call.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a great invitation. Hard to pass up.
Great.
She's gonna think about it.
All right, thanks. Have a great
Thanks,
night,
Monique.
Monique.
Good night, Monique.
All right. Good night, y'all. Thank you again.
Bye.
All right, on to, sorry, next one, consent.
I'll move the consent items.
All right, there we go. I have a motion, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Do you need a second?
Here, probably. You moved. Got a second?
A second.
Okay, Kurt, got it. I'm a little rusty on procedure. Here's the I know, that backpacking trip really threw me for a loop.
Where were you gonna put your director's report?
Chapter 8.
8D.
For some reason, I thought I heard. him say
We
we'll
went
do it.
back and forth a couple times. Yeah, no, you were right. We'll do it after 8B. Okay, item 7A, considering resolution 24-19 for a contract with Nolan Town.
Okay. All right, well, that mostly says it. We asked Nolan Tam to put together scope for the full design services for the Dairy Lane project. So that scope was just over $800,000. So we included a 2% contingency as we do standard. You have the full scope in here. It's very similar to what the Folger design work scope is, same level of submittals and you know, check-ins throughout the process. In your packet, you have the list of the contractors, consultants rather, that are identified here. And, you know, again, it's the scope of the project that we talked about before, the demolition of the existing office building and construction of a 2-story office building in its place, which will give us additional space. And it includes the kind of scope cuts that we talked about previously with the target construction cost of under $13 million. It's budgeted, it's planned for, it's consistent with the budget we previously discussed. So, Scott, from Nolan Tam is on, if there's any questions or any additional information he wants to provide. Got anything you want to add?
Oh, sorry, evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, cool. Sorry. Just trying. I think you covered it. I mean, I think overall, it's also we're covering the peak work that needs to happen to support the city of Belmont, along with all the planning review and planning process for approvals as well. And then there's miscellaneous work, obviously, in the carp yard area and seismic work in the warehouse building to bring that up to current standards. Kat, anything else you think is? Oh, I'd also highlight that we're going to do an additional tier 1 review for immediately occupiable for the building, so that we can get the right criteria in place for structural work that needs to happen in the existing warehouse and then the new admin build.
So to clarify, for seismic, there are deficiencies that we've identified years ago to get to current building standards because of its use. And because we're a water agency, we're not actually required to go to immediately occupiable, but we want to do the assessment to see what it takes to get immediately occupiable, because that would generally be our preference. Of course, we'll look at costs and see if it's outrageous or anything, but so it's going above and beyond the building code requirement, given who we are and the use.
How would that change our access? When would it be immediately occupiable if we haven't finished our building permit? Is it just a different type of?
It's a seismic standard.
Oh, the size
that they refer to as immediately
Yeah.
occupiable.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
so we do analysis.
So
After an event, that we have
okay.
analysis that the building will perform for the district to be able to reoccupy as soon as possible.
Right.
Is this type of building considered an essential building? Is it classified as essential building? No.
It's not. No.
So we're doing.
Only you can choose to call it. It's not essential services.
We can call it essential.
I mean, yeah,
You
for
can-
us it is.
It's essential to you, yes. Absolutely essential to you, yeah.
No, but the way it's classified by, by the universal codes, it's an essential building or not. Okay. So this is not. But because, are you gonna have like an EOC in it?
Well, if it's
Is it
immediately
alternate?
occupied, obviously, if we can access it and it's our regular operations, we would use it under any emergency circumstances. If it's not accessible or damaged, then we would use the Folger EOC.
Yeah.
Is the goal. So we have the redundancy.
All right.
Questions on the scope?
Just one on page 101, 6H, electrical lighting, discussing electrical service to be designed to accommodate future charging stations and rooftop solar. What about battery? Is there any need to plan for that, or is that included?
Yeah, so, sorry.
Go ahead, Scott. You can.
Oh, okay. Yeah, code requires us to design for a certain capacity of battery. But it is a small portion of the demand that the building will have. But you have a generator, and so the battery design will only accommodate in what's required by code. I forget what approximate percentage is. But the idea that would work in concert with the on-site generator for power to come back up, and so it includes a minor engineering requirement for battery for offset for power use only.
And if you recall, when we were identifying scope items, some to be dealt with, you know, immediately and some to kind of plan for as a phase 2 or 3 subsequently down the line. A lot of the charging stations as well as the PV project was taken out of that scope. Also with the understanding that there's other opportunities for grant funding. So we're still doing that in parallel. The design will have that in mind to accommodate that, but for the, you know, cost purposes, we're kind of addressing it as when we can get funding. And with that, you know, as we kind of talked, we had that, you know, even my GM report, we're looking at microgrids. We went and toured the microgrid in Menlo Park, and that would include a very large battery bank that would be recharged and would be integrated with the generator and everything. So that's the way we're envisioning it and planning towards.
So, yeah, I was gonna follow up on his, so the battery situation, is that like a backup system? And the generator will be the alternate system? Is that how? this is gonna
No.
be designed?
The
Okay.
generator remains the primary. The battery
Okay.
backup, the battery piece for California code is basically just offset for when power gets used. So it lets you buy cheaper power, right? You know, and offset the grid impact. So they're, you know, trying to make some adjustments. So the generator still is the primary backup power to support the facility.
Okay,
When you lose power.
and you have the transfer switch on back to the generator right away, right?
You have transfer switch and the generator, whatever the generator startup time is, you know, a few seconds for it to kick on, yeah.
All right, okay, good. Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Just following up then, like that Menlo Park example. I guess the statement was that there's a certain requirement to code to wire for battery. Would that requirement in that wiring be sufficient if we wanted to do something on the scale of what they did in Menlo Park? Or would we have to rewire at some future point to do what they have at that building and campus?
I don't know.
Oh, what did at the Menlo, what did they do at Menlo? Did they have
They have a full microgrid system
oh,
with
yeah.
PV and a generator and a battery array that, you know, automatically switches in the event they don't have.
Building or is it also for vehicle charging?
It's building,
Primarily, but they do have vehicle
vehicle
charging there.
charging, and also heating of the pool. And I
That's
think
right.
there's
So
some
my-
trade-offs
the
in an
battery
emergency.
serves all of that.
Well, the microgrid system itself serves all of that, and in an emergency, I think there's some
Yeah.
trade-offs that
The
are probably
generator,
fixed, but
that's my question. is
yeah,
like,
it's all
what's
integrated though.
reserved versus what's jettisoned? Because, you know, we have to be able to run vehicles. If we're gonna go over to battery electric, we gotta be able to have our cars, vehicles powered up and run the office.
Yeah.
So it's like the solar and battery is sufficient to run an office. And the generator just picks up for like the peak vehicle storage or something like that. But that to me is the whole reason for the generator is the combined building and vehicle load we're gonna have on it. For an emergency.
Sort of defeats the purpose of having an electric vehicle if you run a generator in order to charge.
Not in the middle of an emergency.
Yeah.
Not during. an
Yeah.
emergency, but that's the
Not
normal
normal.
That's not
Not
normal.
cycle. It's
So when I've got the grid up and running, we're not gonna be running the generator.
Right.
No, I mean, it's either that or you can sit there and run gas engines all the time to avoid buying a generator.
Right.
I'm just not sure if we resolved my question. If we wanted a bigger scale battery, would that require some level of expensive rewiring? Is the rewiring not expensive, so we don't need to worry about that?
I don't know that it's rewiring. I think what should do is we should establish what is desired for the loading for the building and charging and a potentially sizable battery system. And we need to understand the panels, the main switchgear in the building is substantial because of of what the building was as a factory. And so is making sure that the main switchgear can handle and accommodate PV generator and a large battery system, and that where you tie into a system or plan for the future tie into a battery system, and we could place or locate and know where the infrastructure should be and plan for it, I think is the wise thing to do in this moment. And if the main switchgear can handle those systems, then you don't need to really rewire anything. You just need to accommodate the proper transfer switches so that you can move over to the battery systems as needed. But they're substantial, and I'm sure Menlo Park, I don't know what Menlo Park, establishes their demand, but the battery accommodation, I mean, we're looking at systems that are, 40-foot by 8-foot containers for the batteries to support essential service buildings. They're sizable, so.
And there are several companies that do this type of thing. They're all over CSDA and similar. And so I've talked to at least 3 companies. But they basically, they design and then go through construction and then even the long-term management of these types of microgrid systems. And they do that initial design and engineering work upfront at their own risk. And you don't actually award them a contract until you're ready for construction. So I've talked to a few of them, and we've one of them, NG, is running some kind of rough calculation. So we're taking advantage of these, what's available to other agencies, special districts like us, to learn more about what our needs are. And so that's happening in parallel, even though it's not even under contract. It's wonderful that this is how they work. We intend to put together an SOQ at some point soon to select one that meets our needs the best, and kind of continue that, design. And also, they also help the grant funding too. So,
So
all
with,
those benefits.
with that process, that keeps open the possibility that we might do a larger battery system, and there's no problem with this as designed in staff's opinion.
Yeah, that's happening all in parallel.
Okay, great. Great,
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
we're absolutely in support of making sure, if a system is designed and we can help coordinate any of the future infrastructure needed to be able to, ease the future move towards a more substantial battery system, we're happy to do that as well. Yeah.
Future proofing is the term my husband always uses.
On the permitting, I see September to December. How realistic is that for City of Belmont permitting?
So for this one, we don't have to go to planning commission. And it's the responsibility for reviewing and approving falls to the community services director, Carlos himself. So assuming there's nothing that particularly delays that process, it should be realistic.
Or maybe existing workload that he has or permits that he has?
Yeah, but so I mean, we work with him a lot, and he is definitely, he himself views this as a high priority project, given what we do and how we serve the community. So,
Okay. Yeah, as I saw the permitting, I go that, I wonder. But, okay. We'll stay on top of it.
Motion second.
I'll move to approve resolution 2024-19. Authorizing the general manager to execute the contract amendment for professional services with Nolan Tam Architects and the rest of it.
And the rest of it.
I'll second.
Just leave it at that, Brian. All right, can I get a roll call vote?
Director Bella,
Yes.
Director Schmidt,
Yes,
Director Wheeler,
Yes.
Vice President Jordan,
Yes.
President Zuka.
Yes. Thank you. Item 7B, resolution 2024-20, accepting as complete. Leave it at that.
Yeah. So, actually, I was just thinking about this. I think if I remember right, the contract we entered into with C2R for that job had them scheduled, or the schedule was that they would be wrapping up the project right around now. I mean, they had that many days in the contract to do the construction. And if you look in the staff report, we make mention that they got done with construction in June. So, I mean, they've been done for a couple of months. Not the challenger, but the issues, they had 3 encroachment permits, one with Belmont, one with St. Carlos, and one with the county. So over the past couple of months, they've been working on just some punch list items and also just finishing off whatever the the different agencies wanted them done. If you remember, we had that change order that we brought to you for $100,000.
Correct.
Because San Carlos said, hey, you need to go out there and do a better job paving the street. So that was an encroachment permit item. All that's wrapped up. So we're here tonight to ask the board, hey, look, they've done all their work. And now it's time to say that the job is complete and to file the notice of completion with the county. Because then what that does is it triggers a 25-day process for any vendors who are working as a sub or sold them, sand or asphalt to file a claim that they hadn't got paid. The C2R has told us that they've paid everybody. We've only received preliminary lien notices, which is typical. Haven't received a claim from anybody saying they haven't been paid. But this starts the clock. When the board approves this tonight and we file that notice complete with the county, it starts our clock ticking. And right now, they've got almost $300,000 in retention that we've held throughout the duration of this construction project. So that's kind of where we're at. Are there any questions the board members might have?
So the issue with the.
Just to jump in,
All done.
Oh.
You want to say
Go ahead,
something,
Jubin.
Jubin?
yeah, just a couple of clarification items, if I may. So the notice of completion that is filed with the county also kicks into, essentially we're accepting the project and the facilities are turned over to us. This is the time where the warranty also starts. So the contractor has 2 years that they warrant the job for us. So if anything does go wrong, we can turn to the contractor and have them fix it. The liens that Rena was talking about, the contractor actually did provide letters and lien releases from those folks that did provide preliminary lien notices. So we don't expect any during this period. We don't expect anyone to come about with claims. But as Rena said, we're holding about $250,000 in retention. I don't want to lose the fact that in staff's view and my personal view, this was a rather successful project. It was very, very challenging and extremely congested corridor. And I think the team that we assembled was the right team to get this done. We ended up about 12, you like engineers when they put stuff together, 12.78% change order. We'll round it up 13% change order, which is higher than what we're typically used to on our capital projects. But for this size project and the complexity of it, I think that's still in line for, and it was a great project for our ratepayers. At the end of the day, we got it done with minimal disruptions to the neighbors and to the businesses there. We tried our best to minimize that. So overall, I think it was a successful project. It was our biggest capital project that we've undertaken in the last 25 years, which is quite an undertaking. So this is the last step.
Any questions for the board?
No,
No, I'll just make a quick comment. So Jubin, this project, because it was a really well-traveled corridor, whenever, I know a lot of the work was done at night, but some, like the daytime stuff, you would never know, it was very well coordinated. It didn't cause a ton of backups, because I traveled at Old County and Harbor quite a bit, and it was always very smooth. So every time I drove by with the one lane closed or whatever, I was like, you're doing a good job. So I just wanted to just reiterate that, as you stated, it was a really well-run project, and, the fact that it was done ahead of schedule is really fantastic. So hats off to everyone who worked really hard on this project.
Thank you. I think the entire team appreciates that comment. And I want to say that that disruption was planned or accounted for way in advance in planning, right? Not before even the design was done. We were thinking as far as how the lane closures would look, and so it's great to kind of hear that feedback. And that was kind of the feedback that the lack of feedback that we got and the lack of yelling at us that we got led us to believe that it went well. Not that, the businesses didn't complain, and but the night work and the day work, I think, worked well. I really appreciate that feedback, and I'm going to pass that along to the entire project team, because they worked really, really hard to minimize. It's a disruptive project. You're digging up the street, but trying to minimize it is that comment is very appreciated, Kathy. Thank you.
So I need a motion and a second on this one. No, I guess not. It was a resolution, so yeah.
It's a resolution.
It's a resolution. Accepting it.
We'll move
All right, got a motion.
move resolution 2024, accepting as complete the Old County Roads, phase 1 approved, and the rest.
And the rest.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Director Bella,
Yes.
Director Wheeler,
Yes,
Director Schmidt,
Yes,
Vice President Jordan,
Yes.
President Zuka.
Yes. Very good. On to item 8A, review final 2024 rate study.
All right. We've had quite a few meetings where we've talked about rates, and I did put together a list of those just for the staff report, which is kind of nice to see for myself. There's been 8, 9 meetings, including finance committees meetings before this, where we discussed rates, and that's just in the last year. I know the project actually started a couple years ago. So what you have in your packet is almost the final rate study. There was one edit that happened earlier this week, so you'll see the version that gets posted will say version 2 on the cover. And the change was just, there was a time period of data that was used, a fiscal year period that was incorrect and updated. Minor change, but just wanted to make sure it was completely accurate in the version that will be posted on our website and whatnot. So there's actually no specific action on this item, but this is the study that will support the rate adjustment that will come before you in November at the Prop 218 public hearing, or after Prop 218 public hearing. So this is what will be on our website. This is what the public will be able to view as well. So I see Rick Simon's information page isn't actually on the meeting, and I checked, I don't have any emails from him, so I'm not sure. So if you have any questions, let me know. If there's any questions for him, I will get them to him and I will get back to the board with those answers.
Oh, that's not him online?
No.
That's John. Just his picture.
That's John Davidson.
Oh,
So the reason John Davidson is very interested is this, and the next item is the public hearing notice. And so to make our time frame, we're meeting tomorrow, we're making any changes, we're getting it going, it's going to the printer,
very
so
good. He needs to be ready.
we gotta go.
All
on
right,
this.
good, 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 good.
I had a couple of things. One was in the report, in the cover letter, it says we're going to relocate some storage tanks. So I think that was the recoding. Page 133, the last sentence.
Yeah, I did not catch that, but yes, that is recoding. So we might have a version 3 that will get posted.
And on 145, first paragraph, second sentence, high use allocate the cost. I couldn't figure out what that meant. High use rates? Costs are allocated, or?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I will look into it and we'll resolve. There was a couple, to me, it reads like something where it was an edit by someone that got a little messed up, so.
Yeah, I couldn't figure
Very
out
good
what
catch.
they were trying to say.
I
Yeah,
think what you said, Kurt, makes sense to me. High use rates allocate the cost of providing for the highest level of peak service with the consumption charge.
I think so, but
That makes sense.
I was just trying
yeah.
to figure it out. And then on page 154, under services. The first bullet point, it says indirect allocations for costs. What are indirect allocations? We never mention them anywhere else. They don't appear in any of the tables. So I thought this was just another composite that we were trying to define.
Yeah. Are you familiar with this term? Have you seen it?
I'm not.
I've seen it in like city rate studies.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it. It's all the, like, if I've got accounting services and it's getting charged to a capital project, I got hit for $1.5 million last year of indirect costs from all the other departments that that the city parses up their cost to an enterprise fund. That would be an indirect cost in my parlance. And so I think what they're trying to do is explain indirect costs and then in brackets define it. Personnel, overhead, certain non-operating revenue. That is the definition of indirect costs.
They could move those
Yeah,
parentheses.
a little closer
Yeah.
to the term.
So if they're making other changes, we can ask them if they have that language a little bit, make it clear.
And a direct cost is obviously something directly supporting the type.
That was it.
Excellent.
Kind of a general question, talking about tiering for other than single family.
Mhm.
So we have some accounts that are irrigation, am I remembering those correctly, or landscaping accounts? But they're just grouped as commercial, they're not distinguished otherwise?
For rate purposes, they fall under the commercial category. We do track what they are. We track if it's irrigation, we track if it's institutional, commercial, industrial on our end, but they all fall under the commercial rate category.
Because I was trying to figure out if those might be appropriate to be tiered, especially if you could do it on a per acreage basis or something like that. Or maybe they're not important enough for that to matter.
They are a small portion of our overall water use. Single family residential by far is the biggest category of use. As far as what's right and appropriate to tier, I would defer to both the rate consultant and Julie's team.
Yeah, I think to confer with the rate consultant.
Okay, the other thing I'd just add to that is it mentions seasonality of water use being a reason not to tier. But seasonality is an important part of single family residential use. So I haven't really seen that as, I don't quite understand why that's a reason not to tier. But if this is relatively small potatoes, it doesn't, I don't see a reason to slow anything down. at this point. But something to keep in mind for future.
Yeah, that's a good question.
All right. So action tonight then is, this is a draft or a final draft? We're not approving it, we're just
You're not approving, and
looking
there
at it,
are
giving it some additional thought.
a couple clarifications we'll ask, so. Ask them to make.
We will see this not October, but November, correct?
Yes, November will be the, is scheduled to be the Prop 218 hearing. Which brings us to our next item.
Next item.
Like,
Give me a second.
Could I backtrack for a second?
Sure, go ahead.
I assume this is still this item, page
no,
two
that's the
fifteen,
next one.
that's the next one, right?
Yeah.
I'm unbacktracking.
Oh, you're not backtracking, you're going.
Forward
sequence now. Okay. Getting back on track, maybe?
Oh,
All right, item 8B.
Okay, so that is reviewing the draft Prop 218 hearing notice.
oh,
So that's what we have here. It's a very detailed, lengthy Prop 218 notice. We took that approach. It's consistent with what the district has done in the past. You know, I kind of have joked a little bit that, you know, one of the goals of this is to give the customers enough information to answer as many questions as we can anticipate so that they don't show up for the public hearing that we're notifying them of, right? We want them to be comfortable with what we're doing. This is actually supported and augmented by a website that John Davidson is working on putting together, and also a detailed FAQ, which we will, start with and we'll add to as, if any questions from customers roll in. There's other pieces that'll support it, like John's developing a little kind of a postcard size handout that we'll give stacks to with all of our folks in the field, so that if there are questions that are pushed by customers after this is, hits mailboxes, they don't obviously have to have the answers about the rate, but they'll have this card that they can hand the customers that will point them to the website, will point them to the FAQ, give them the email address and our phone number so they can reach out and get the questions answered. We also plan to, give them to the city, their public works folks, so they have that as a resource. Again, so we can answer as many questions the customers could have.
Did you say the postcards were gonna have a QR code so that they could just? Did you say that?
I did not say that,
So
but I
then
think we
I'm
talked
wondering
about
whether you
that.
read my thought. 'Cause it's on the same-
But I think we can do that regardless, John. If you can add it, if not, I don't see any reason we wouldn't be able to do a QR.
I think because people take postcards and they sometimes get lost, and
Mhm.
I'm just speaking for myself. If there's a QR code, I can put it on my phone, then I keep the tab open on my phone.
Yeah.
I have like
That
30
does
tabs.
beg the question, how many tabs do you have open?
I have 30 tabs. I know, 30. I try to delete them. That's all I try to delete a few.
But also, on the development of this, so the finance committee saw and reviewed it. I shared it with Kathy, given her, experience with communications. Staff has seen it. Allison was incredibly helpful reviewing it, coming kind of as a newer person to water, having her eyes on it. I sent it to some personal friends who have nothing to do with water and said, here, read this for me, please. And try to get, as many perspectives and, is there anything that's sensitive, anything that rubs you the wrong way, anything you want to know more? All of that. Mueller Strategic Advisors, their communication person also contributed to this as well. So it's a little bit of work went into it, so hopefully. But if there's any other comments, questions, things that, stood out to you, especially if it's in a negative way, this is a good opportunity. We want it to be readable and perceived well by as many customers as we possibly can.
I think it looks great. I had the way my eye tracked, it made me go, and then I realized my eye tracked the wrong way, so this take it for that. When I'm looking at the sample residential water bills,
Mhm.
the current, I immediately went from red left to right, and I went from 50 to 83 to 153, and went, oh wait, no, it's supposed to go down. So you might want to and emphasize that you're going down somehow, not that this dashed line to me created I'm supposed to read left to right visual. And I think we want people to be comparing 53 and 64, not 53 and 83. That's just how my eye went.
Yeah.
And that's what was my initial reaction. That can't be that can't be right. And then I caught myself. So I thought I'd just toss it out there and caught the way my eye flowed. So maybe the lines go vertically instead of that horizontal dash line to keep it from jumping across.
Yeah, I think that would be. We'll play with that for sure.
Maybe I had a long day at work.
I got stuck in traffic, and sleep, and eye twitches, all possible.
And on that same page,
Mm.
the question I had was a median being 6 HCF, when that'll be our smaller, our lowest tier.
Yeah, median is actually 5.6 or 5.7s, but we bill in whole units, so we round it up. And it kind of just coincidentally, and part of how the tiers are derived, but that's the break point. So if you use 6, you go into, that, or you stay within tier 1, and then when you go over 6, you get to tier 2.
So I did not understand when you said low, median, high, that was not meant to correspond to tiers.
Tiers, okay,
By median, you mean the real median household.
yes.
I didn't realize that.
maybe
Um,
low use household, median household, high use household. If we can cram those words in there or something to that effect. Water use.
would it make sense to have your typical low, your typical tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3?
So what the low, median, and high actually are is low is our 15th percentile. Single family household, median is 50th, and high is the 85th percentile. That's how we
Maybe
selected
that.
those.
Maybe you can use a legend here, and you put like LHU, like low household use, so that you can get them up there. LHU, FHU, HHU.
So I think the confusing part though is you're using a statistical term median and you're using low and
Yes,
high on the,
yes.
on the other, which have no statistical significance. So it's either low, medium, high, or it's percentile. Sorry, to be technically accurate.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to, maybe
I know.
percentile is a footnote, but
Right,
not
right,
up
right.
there, just to.
Yeah.
But I think
Am I-
perhaps a low, typical, and
But
high
if you
household.
use medium use, then
Average.
you take it up of the
Typical.
statistical thing.
Well, exactly, or typical, low, average, or I don't know, whatever, but you
Yeah,
know,
Yeah, or
medium.
typical, because average is also,
Yeah, it's also.
Yeah, exactly.
although our median and average are very similar, we're pretty normal.
But you know, typical would be good, low
Yeah.
use, typical use, or a high
We're talking
use.
as to how to
Medium
transmit
would
the
be-
signal.
rather than
Medium works as well. Yeah,
It's
low,
kinda
medium, high,
medium.
low, typical, but
Medium.
median or average, I think.
Yeah.
What I like about typical is that does not sound like a tier.
Right,
You not,
Yeah.
don't get confused and think.
Right, yeah.
Like I got confused.
Yeah.
Am I the only one that got confused on those 3?
I think I've just looked at this too many times.
yeah. I thought we were using median actually, in imprecise ways. But,
You thought that of me, Matt?
well, I knew better, I should know better, right? I should know better, I worked with you long enough.
So what- I tried to look at this as a consumer and I said, okay, what are my rates? I just took this, like new rates and said, and looked at my existing bill and I tried to figure it out. So I personally probably didn't even look at, if I'm looking at it as a consumer, I didn't look at the sample bills, because we just got our bills, so I was looking at it. I got them online and I was like, oh, maybe my bill's gonna go down. But, yeah, because of tiering changes.
And, you know, I should have mentioned it earlier, but another thing that's going on the website, and it's highlighted at the box below, is a calculator that residents will be able to go. They can look at their last bill, they can plug in what's their meter size, what's their use, and they can see what they're.
That'll be nifty.
So John's working with Liftoff to get that put together.
I mean, maybe we make that little calculator thing slightly bigger.
We're
Because
running
then-
out of space to try to figure out where to put it, yeah, honestly. There's so much information in this thing. And that was one of the goals of putting big on the front page, is trying to drive people to the website. And we do, if you read the words, which I know everyone reads this differently, right? But it says, you know, information regarding the public process, frequently asked questions, and water bill calculator are available at.
I don't know if we make that more bold or something, I don't know. Cause I kind of skipped right over that, but, you know, we might be kind of nitpicking at this point. So,
I mean, I think it's got a very professional look and feel, the whole thing, and it looks like, you know, it's well put together and well thought out, was my initial reaction.
And we're also having it translated to Spanish, so we'll have a Spanish version on the website as well. There's 2 items that I haven't seen in any similar ones, that, and I've tried to look at as many of these notices as I could while we were developing it. But the box on can these rates change, and talking about how they can't go higher, but they can go lower. Here are all the factors that can result in going lower. And the fact that the board has in the past not raised rates to the full amount. So, you know, I think that, you know, that's something the board expressed, and I think is a really good addition. Also, the whole page 7 explanation really of how the benefits and the reasons for spending and investing in the system, and that, you know, if those news articles I shared with you about customer concerns in San Carlos for a neighboring water purveyor, I think that is something that the customers really wanted to know that they didn't get conveyed, at least based on those news articles, right? So we try to convey that well.
There's a sentence in here that I think is well done, but it's almost, I wish we could uphold and underline it, which I don't think would go over well though. The study was designed to ensure the district does not collect more revenue than is necessary to cover its costs. I mean, I wish we could capture that somehow. But I have not come up with a creative way of.
New paragraph?
New paragraph, another inset, I don't know, just a thought.
Yeah.
But, okay. I guess, any other comments? Very good, you guys feel appropriately directed
Yes.
or confused?
So, no squawking. This will be printed early next week and hopefully in people's mailboxes end of next week.
Okay.
Which will give us plenty of time.
Very good. On to item 8C.
So this is consideration of adopting a new ordinance to establish procedure for ratepayer objections to proposed water rates. This was discussed at last week's special meeting. It's the same ordinance that you saw last week. You know, hopefully you had some time to think about it, pros and cons. There's one update, the bill that would make this kind of a universal requirement for all water districts or all Prop 218 processes.
It's 218, but it's not a requirement. They would have to take an affirmative, action like you're considering doing tonight. That was signed by the governor. So
Okay.
after January
So rather
1,
than just applying till now, January 1, this action would then apply past January 1.
well, we would need to look at that, the final language in the bill and see if we needed to make any changes to this ordinance if you adopted it tonight. If you decided not to adopt it, and sorry, I totally took over, then you wouldn't have
It
it
does
for
say here,
this cycle.
District Council Sherman. will
It
facilitate any
does say
effective
that.
new writing. Yeah, covered in writing, in advance. Well done.
You wouldn't have the administrative exhaustion process for this Prop 218 process. But come January 1, I imagine most agencies are gonna go ahead and adopt that process, and so you'd have it 5 years from now.
Right.
It's signed yesterday by the governor.
Well,
And with it, we also have prepared, and I'm not get printed. Oh, no, it's on the back. I just missed it. So here, so if you do adopt it, timing is such that we need to get the customer notification out to share this with the customers. It would be in a separate piece of paper, but an insert in the hearing notice. So you open it up, here's a separate piece of paper that comes out, here's the glossy brochure. So this is the draft notice. Right.
I had a concern about the draft, this notification piece, in the fact that it doesn't really explain what an objection is versus a protest. It says that they're different, but it doesn't really explain why you're objecting over and above a protest. So it was like there's two separate procedures going on, but it's not clear why. As a ratepayer, I would go, what are they doing?
And it's a challenging thing to explain to someone who doesn't
not
know
aware,
and
yeah.
understand a Prop 218 process. One suggestion we had, I forget, I think it was Julie's suggestion, is to bold the language, this exhaustion procedure is separate from Prop 218 protest hearing. It doesn't explain why, but it further highlights that it's different.
I guess the intent is that if you submit a written objection with some basis for objecting, that you can get some type of response at the hearing. And that didn't really come out as being the intent, and so it was sort of explaining what was happening, but it wasn't really emphasizing the reason is to get the opportunity to get a reaction or
A response that gets addressed by staff and shared with the board,
right.
while the protest is just saying, don't do it. This is saying, this is an opportunity for you to articulate your issues in a timely manner that it could be considered.
Right.
So maybe it's something to that effect of.
But I think the real issue is that you are trying to basically start a clock for folks who might want to sue you. And this is a way for them to get their get their objection on the record and have you address it so that it's also on the record. So that if they eventually did sue you, you've created a record that a judge would look at.
Right.
It's kind
No,
of hard to say that in a notice to customers, you know?
Well, I mean, to Kirk's point, we could, so to a certain extent, this has the protest instructions, and this is a supplement to the protest instructions, giving you separate instructions on how to object, right?
Right.
This isn't a standalone document giving you all of your objection routes. It's the separate document that's intended to give you an alternative means of voicing your dissent.
It's not even clear from that that it actually counts as a protest.
It doesn't.
If you
doesn't.
submit- It doesn't, so it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why am I doing two things? It wasn't clear.
But it does say in here that if you wish to submit a written protest, you have to do it
By the 21st.
but yeah, following, the Prop 218 hearing notice. It refers back to this document, so they work in tandem. I think you're right, it doesn't say option one, option two, you decide. But
Right.
it's in here. I mean, I read it as pointing back to this document and going, okay. It's confusing, it doesn't simplify the thing, but it's a legal protection.
Will there on the website be a little FAQ if somebody has a question, that just some standard?
Yeah, that there will be a question, this hasn't been drafted yet, but there'll be a question as part of the FAQ, which, will address this.
Yeah, I mean,
talk
I
about
think
this
if
process.
we have FAQs on the website, because we are still pointing everybody back to the website, and there's, an FAQ that sort of says, here's why, like, I understand the protest is you could just say, don't do it. An objection is I object, and actually gives the person an opportunity to say why. That's how I understood
Yeah.
it from our last meeting.
And receive a response from us.
Yes. So maybe you could work with Julie on some kind of easy FAQ language that. Because if we keep trying to be more specific and more specific, I think we'll confuse people more, to be honest.
I mean, we could do this, I think, building on what you're saying, or maybe this is what you're saying, and it's just thinking, it is, if we make this about more, hey, this is the more customer service oriented way of getting an answer, here you're not gonna hear from us. If you'd like to get an answer, submit it via this mechanism, and we will respond to you. So this is if you just want to get on record formally as saying no. If you'd like to receive a from the board, you can do this and this, or this, whatever, and this will not count as Prop 218. but staff will formally respond to you, and this is the customer friendly. Okay, just another way of doing it, to sort of explain, like, if you want an answer from this, or you want to go on record, maybe you don't care. Because we've seen these protests, it's like handwritten posted, you know, with an
No.
APN number, no,
Yeah.
exclamation, they don't want an answer. That's this process. You really want an answer, that's this process.
Yeah, and if somebody wanted to sue you, it would be good to know.
Yeah.
So that you could react and you could actually then, you might say like, we need to do more work on our rate study.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's a weakness that you
Right.
haven't seen,
Yeah.
but you won't be able to identify that with just a protest.
Yeah. So maybe this thing just gets spun a little bit differently to say this like once more time. It's like, for those wishing to simply protest under Prop 218, see this. For the customers who want to either or, also you also have the ability to follow this. And this, again, the spin on this, for lack of a better word, is this is a more customer friendly way where we will actually engage with you rather than just reporting your protest. And take the time to respond, do all that kind of stuff, present your complaint and the response to the board, yada, yada, yada. Next, I get the legal protection, but it is clear as mud to Kurt's point as to the why. And maybe the why, the why is just sort of slightly recrafted as the additional customer service.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and by the way, the state one pretty much follows this. So everybody else in the
Right.
state is gonna be kind of asking the same questions, like, why are we doing this and how do we explain it?
Yeah, okay. But I guess, for my 1/5, is I'm in favor of of adding the extra layer of both communication and objection procedures to the process.
I think we can vote on it, don't we?
Yes.
It's a resolution.
It's an ordinance.
It's an ordinance.
It's an ordinance, right, isn't it?
Is the notification part of the ordinance or can staff alter it
It's not.
based on our? So with this direction, then you can go out and make it crystal clear and easily.
Yes. Do our best.
All right, so with that, and first and possibly a second.
I'll move ordinance number 128.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Director Schmidt,
Yes.
Vice President Jordan,
Yes.
Director Wheeler.
Yes.
Director Bella,
Yes.
President Zuka.
Yes. All right, was after you, not before you, right? Okay. Item 8D, receive message of person's water tank property appraisals.
All right. Comes another confusing.
Well, so since Monique didn't want to stay for the whole meeting, I guess I'll give her report, but she did the legwork on this. So if you recall, it was quite a while ago now, but this came before you November 2022, and then a little flood thing happened, and then we reached out to so many real estate professionals who gave us the runaround and said, I don't want to deal with this. This is hard. So this summer, Monique took it back up and was able to get some real estate folks to help us and put together an appraisal. So what we discussed previously is we have the Mezzi's tank site, which is adjacent to the Herson tank site. And it was noticed a while back now, and a survey was done in 2021. If you want to go to the survey maps, I think that's helpful. That there were some neighbors encroaching on both of those properties. Go to the multicolor. Right there. So this is the Mezzi's tank site. It's a funky little site. It was an old tank. The parcel clearly was just really, formed around it. And I think, Rena, you mentioned you came up with something where part of this was actually taken by eminent domain to make this parcel to build this tank at whatever point it was. but the neighbors are kind of in this area. A couple of them are lightly encroaching. To be fair, we have a fence around basically that round retaining wall, but there isn't actually a fence at our property line, so, there's nothing too significant on that property, but we're using our property, so we do want to address that. At the same time, we don't have any real use or value for the site, for the district. There is a retaining wall that we'll have to, maintain in the long run. If it just sits there, it's an expense to maintain the weeds and everything else. And then if you go to the next map, we have the Hersom tank site, which is a much larger site, does have a tank that we do use on it. On the north edge, we have an area where the homeowner is more significantly encroaching. It's about a 2,000 square foot area. The photos also in your packet kind of show it's basically their driveway and fence is currently on our property. So, that is something that we'd like to address. So we had appraisals done on the sites and the appraisal came back. The value of that Hersom encroachment area is identified as $30,000. So there, a couple options you can consider. There's always the do nothing option. There is offering to sell that portion to the homeowner. It's, it's at the top of our site, it's hilly. It's not that we have a specific need for that, but it is our property. Asking, or having the landowner vacate it and just leaving it as is. That's another option. It gets a little bit more complicated when we consider the Mezzi site. So we had the appraiser evaluate the value of the whole site as well as those individual encroachment areas. Those individual encroachment areas, the appraised value was between $2,300 and $3,600. So not a lot. The whole Mezzi tank site property was valued at $40,000, which, if looking at Bay Area real estate, it's probably the cheapest piece of real estate in the whole 9-county area. But that is because of the size, primarily the size of the site, in that it doesn't meet the minimum lot size required under the zoning designation. And there's an error. The appraisal report identified it as being zoned as residential R1A, which has a minimum lot size of 9,600 square feet. It's actually in R1B, which is a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. So they're going to revise the appraisal report for that. So in thinking about Mezzi's site and what you want to do there, you could declare the whole site as surplus and offer it for sale. You could require the encroaching neighbors to vacate and do nothing.
And when you say do nothing, they vacate and remove their stuff, or they vacate and continue to use as is?
They vacate and we, maybe put up a fence around our actual property line. And we just hang on to the property and maintain it. Or a more complicated potential is you could direct staff to research the potential for surplusing a portion of the Hersom tank site to meet that 6,000 square foot minimum, to presumably add a good bit of value to the Mezzi's site and surplus that. Because like I said, and Rena and Jubin can also speak to it, but that top of that Hersom site is very hilly. We know people build on all kinds of hilly lots around here, but we are not using it. We don't have any plans to use it. It doesn't make sense for us to use that portion of our property. So it's conceivable that we could make a 6,000 or greater square foot lot and surplus that and potentially get a higher value. There's still a lot of questions to that feasibility, making sure that it would be buildable and therefore have value, making sure that such a funky shaped lot would be acceptable. to the city for building and et cetera. So, you know, there's a bit of legwork and research, but I will say when I saw the $40,000 valuation versus what we know other residential properties to go for, one at least ask the question of whether it's worth it. But if we go that route, that basically precludes the option of taking that area that's already encroached on the Hersham site and selling that itself to the encroaching neighbor. There's a lot of things to consider, not a straightforward situation. Does that make sense? To everyone, what I just explained?
Is there some kind of an easement there? Because I see, those are power lines, right, on the Hersham side?
Which one here? So you're looking at the,
Yeah, those are power lines up here.
I think that's just the is that a
No,
guy
here.
wire?
You see the pole?
It's a power
the-
line.
There's no grid
Power line?
power, yeah.
What page are you on, Louis?
Photo on page 232, photo 2. Photo 1,
Yeah, at the top of the screen there, the same photo we're looking at.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a power line.
So there's no easement there from PG&E?
It's the end of the line, Louis. It doesn't continue down the so if you look at the survey, you can look at the survey, it's within public right of way.
Yeah, it's a tall pole, so it has more than one guy wire.
But it's within public right of way, not in anyone's, not in our right of way or our property. I should say.
Where he got that telephone booth from.
And looking at
You
the
just found
survey
out for who.
map, it does look like other parts of his driveway pavers also go into the public right of way.
Well, I've seen lots being built that are steeper than this in Belmont. On Montserrat, there's one being built right now. It's a lot steeper than this.
Wow.
Yeah. So eventually, that will be useful for somebody. If we were to lump it into to make a lot, it would be a lot more valuable.
It's going to be a very odd shaped lot to build on, yeah.
I just don't know how you're gonna get access and egress to that lot.
Well, you have to take it off of Bayview.
Yeah.
So essentially,
You're gonna be driving down that.
you're
person's
driving
house.
down that slope and your house is on the little tiny pad at the bottom. Yeah.
Have you seen some of the streets in Belmont? Some of the houses, because I've seen
Yeah.
quite a bit
Some of the
lately.
There's your
driveways.
driveway right there
Yeah.
if you want that house.
And sometimes
Yeah.
there's,
Driveway.
there's like 4 flights of stairs before you get to, oh, I still gotta walk a little more to get to a house.
We did play.
It's
with
gonna
the
look
map.
like a very much a James Bond looking house if it ends up being built.
We did play with the map a little bit to see, you know, what does a 6,000 square foot lot look like? And you could, you know, roughly this, but basically, you know, the lot line between 1824 and 1822 Mezzies, if you kind of like follow that out to the street, you could make a 6,000 square foot lot. You kind of look at the map and you kind of take fingers and you take, oh, here's a house. Yeah, I mean, you could, you know, not doing any of the research of the other details, but like you could put a house on there and have a really funny shaped backyard with a staircase that goes down to Mezzies.
Yeah.
Put a heck of a hot tub in that round area there, but
Great view of the Bay Area.
someone might value it and want to do that.
I think so. I mean, I wouldn't, but someone will.
Seems like there's such a huge value difference between 40,000 and even a potentially buildable lot. It's worth investigation at least.
Even if we market it at a good price, it would still be a lot more valuable than this.
Yeah, I think it does bear some research, but the bigger question for me is the encroachment that the property owners have, especially the person, and I think we brought this up last time, the person that has the tree house on our property, that if something happens, if a kid falls out of that tree house, there's a liability with that. And so that was kind of my primary concern is if something happens that's on our property.
Even just those steps are
Yeah.
concerned, but
Right.
still.
So, I mean, have we, and I know we talked about this before, so you might have to refresh my memory, but have we talked to the property owners about their encroachment?
We've sent a letter that notifies them that we did the survey, we provided the survey maps and that they are encroaching. I've heard back only from one of the owners and it was actually the 1818 Menzies owner, which is not the one with the treehouse. And she basically said that there's no fence there, but she's not actually using it. She's aware of where the lot line is, so she's not actually encroaching. There's this other, the fence between the yellow and the green. She said that was the when she purchased it. So she, doesn't sound like she's doing anything on the property, but the others have some minor improvements, including the treehouse, which. So we made them aware. And let them know we were requesting an appraisal and that will be in touch later. basically. Certainly it's less value, but conceivably one of these neighbors might be interested in purchasing the property. Or potentially two of them, and you might have, multiple interested in potentially higher value.
Truly, if the district was to create a lot, we'd be surplusing the land to sell, then would we have to offer it to other public agencies before? No, you already looked into it. Okay.
Yeah, we talked to Laura, the real estate person, who we are exempt, the recent changes to the Surplus Land Act. Any parcel
Okay.
under half an acre is exempt from that requirement.
So it goes into the open market.
Yeah, after you give notice, but you don't have to do this huge notice to everybody that might be potentially interested. You just have to notify the state.
So it seems like check out the feasibility of doing that, basically. I would guess that the board would feel like if it does look like it's feasible, go do it. I'm sure they'll be coming back to us
Yeah.
before that. I don't know if you need more direction beyond that. Unless you're looking for more, there's a treehouse issue, I guess.
I think my 1/5 of the recommendation is that we just make sure that there's no liability around the pieces that actually belong to us in terms of treehouse worries me. So the liability issues, and then secondly, do investigate that if we did, sell a portion of one to make it a feasible lot, like what would that fair market value look like?
I'm kind of torn in all honesty between this idea of needing to maximize the value of everything that we have versus what's the purpose of this in general. And, it's surplus land as far as I'm concerned. The community is kind of approached on and just getting out from underneath it. Like, I don't know that I really see, like, is this our core business? Or do we just surplus the lot as is and say, who wants it? Someone come in and buy it. If none of the adjacent property owners buy it, then we have our, if one of us, if 1818 wants to buy it, great. They can do whatever they want to do with the new staircase and their new hot tub deck. If not, then we sort of have exhausted that and we can move on to option B, which is, selling it off and creating another thing. I just don't know that we're in the land business,
Right. That's the problem. I mean, can we sell it for less than what the appraised value is?
No, but once we
That's the
surplus
problem.
it goes on the market and we'll sell it to whoever the highest bidder is.
Right.
And if we could have two landowners competing for it for well over $40,000 for all I really know, or well over, what was it, 20?
40, yeah. Or they could choose to split it.
or they could choose to split it or whatever, and then we tell this person that built their thing on it, vacate it off our property, or you can buy it for $30,000. To me, that feels like, I mean, that's sort of more in line with what I think we do, but that's just me, that's again, my personal opinion. I'm not too keen on trying to then go figure out what we can surplus from first some, so we can sell off something that someone can then go build on, because we're not developers. Like the community, we've got people surplus it because we don't need it. Go for it. But that, I don't know.
It's possible if the price was low enough that one of the lower landowners would make a bid on it, just
Maybe
because
maybe
they
we
could
got
do a
three,
gazebo up there. or
yeah, we got
something.
1, 2, 3, 4 potential people that could be interested in bidding on it, and we'd be in and out. Depending upon their financial situation.
Matt, the only concern would be if they want part of it, but not all of it. And
that's not-
the land, that retaining wall and the pad are not
That's what I'm
something
saying.
we want to be stuck with.
Surplus in the land, we're not gonna subdivide it. They can either buy it or not. If they want part of it, then they can buy all of it.
Okay.
I'm thinking about the actual lot, right? Like, or the other option is that we go into each of these 4 and say, you owe us so much dollars, or and get out. Or we go in and say, someone's gonna take this lot over, we're gonna put it up. You're all welcome to buy it. But again, my 1/5 is I'm not personally feeling the desire to go become a land developer.
No, I mean, we're gonna spend more time and trouble trying to figure it out
Yeah.
than we would ever get for the value of the land.
Yeah, and so if we put this lot, the Mezzi's tank lot up for sale, surplus to put it up for sale, we'd have at least 4 people that we'd be talking to. Nobody else, really. And then we'd have to figure out what to do with what's encroached on Hearthstone. And then we could offer them separately to buy that or vacate. It would be in and out. Other board members feel strongly.
Mezzi's area might wanna have it as the gazebo picnic area or something.
Maybe they can all 4 get in and make a little local community park.
Right.
Skate park,
Yeah.
concrete.
Community use, hot tub that. Anyway, again, that's my 1/5. I think if we decide to create a lot out of it and then sell it, we're gonna have a double whammy, which is we've just sold it and someone's gonna be building in the area, and I don't know what our best interest is for the community.
Well, I'm thinking of that $9 million price tag for that,
Fair enough.
for that new building we gotta build, so. I mean, if it's gonna be a ton of staff work to kind of determine what that fair market value is, then maybe it's something we don't do. Because I know you have a lot on your plate, but I also think it's incumbent upon us to see what the potential is. Just because we have that big price tag.
Yep.
Coming up.
I'm guessing that the difference between the $40,000 non-buildable lot and a buildable lot is probably a couple $100,000. So that's what we're talking about. So to me, that's worth investigating. So how much of a pain?
Probably more than that.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be as valuable as just a blank lot, because someone who wants to build on this is gonna be complicated.
Yeah,
Still,
there's a
it
lot
could
of
be a lot.
structural stuff that has to go into it to build on it.
So a couple $100,000 would be worth some checking out.
Well, why don't we go look into it then, and we'll come back with a more in-depth analysis. Okay, the options are to get to 6,000 square feet or whatever.
So that's what we'll do with Mezzi's, and we'll hold on Hearthstone because we don't know if we need that chunk or not.
But right now, the communication we've sent to the homeowners, does that cover us in terms of any type of liability?
I wouldn't say it covers us. I think it helps.
Yeah.
You know,
We're still somehow responsible regardless, so
Right.
if something happens there.
yeah,
The only thing
protection.
is that they have notified them, that's all.
If it's our tree, let's just cut our tree down.
You need to get a permit for that too.
We just hired the tree company, so.
Yes.
One extra tree.
We could remove the treehouse.
No,
Won't piss them off.
yeah, it's inside the.
It's ours, it's our property.
I mean, that's a communication with the homeowner, right? And it sounds like we've sent them a letter and they've not replied.
Go red tag.
Yeah, I mean, the next letter, can be more, assertive and say, take your stuff down.
Yeah.
We
last
could
time
also move our fence line into the property, on the property line too. That's another option.
Neighbors.
Yeah.
We want to be good neighbors, but I also just want to make sure that we don't have any issues.
Yeah. We did this once before, you might remember, and it took months and they got a lawyer involved and we went back and forth but eventually it all was fine.
Yeah. Moving on, we are going to bring up, Director Schmidt's director's report right now.
Yes. I'm moving tomorrow.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, to East Street in Redwood City, 101 East Street. So, moving tomorrow, and, there's some last minute stuff we need to clear up with the seller's title, not on our side, seller's side, but it should be an issue. And then we will go through the process of getting our place ready to sell. And our goal is to sell by the first week of November. And I am not entirely clear, there's a 180-day clock that starts at some point. Not entirely clear if it starts tomorrow or if it starts when we sell. To most, pretty much it doesn't matter.
Or when you move,
It's when you leave your
Leave.
residence, so.
so just leave a
Okay.
box, leave a bed,
Yeah,
stay in it one night a month. Is there a minimum residency requirement?
I was gonna say, it probably doesn't matter a whole lot because I would not want to stay 180 days after I'm not a resident here.
Just leave your wife there, that's all.
I think it would be, at some point, be time for both me to move on and for this water district to move on from me to somebody that lives in the district.
Fair enough, fair
So,
enough.
so I said that I communicated to staff and Julie, I said I'm open to reasonable interpretation of what's best for the district and trying to figure out if the district chooses to do an appointment rather than a special election, I'm open to discussion as to what would be an appropriate time for me to resign. And in particular, it occurred to me the district might want to look for both appointments at the same time, assuming Kathy moves on to something else. So, but that's entirely up to you all. That's my report.
Okay. So on that timing from our 90-day clock that we typically have, or I think that's the 90 days that we, from like someone actually vacating. At least that's what I remember. The 180 is when how many days we have to fill? Or I guess that's item 8E, but
It's once you move the position, or the position is considered vacated after 180 days.
after we have to
So
have
it's
someone.
vacant after 180 days.
Oh, it's
or-
vacant after 180 days.
Or whatever.
Would it be possible to have like a little timeline, this has to happen here, this has to happen here, so that it would be easier for us to keep track of it?
Moved on to 8E.
8E, that's what I
Okay,
remember.
because I'm gonna recuse myself from the conversation just because it involves me and me potentially moving
Fair
on, so
enough.
I also will be recusing myself from the conversation. Sorry, I just needed to make sure
No,
that.
yeah, I kind of said it like, I guess we're moving on.
So both of you are gonna recuse yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get involved. The
It's
rest
gonna
of
be
us.
lonely here.
Should we go somewhere?
No, just,
Shut up.
yeah.
You said it, not her. Just don't talk.
gonna go get another water.
There you go.
Can we take a restroom break?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah.
Do that.
That's cool.
I gotta use that too.
Yeah, actually.
We wanna, I guess the question was to staff, whether or not we could come up with a timeline that would sort of lay out some options. Like when will we have to notice, when will we do interviews, when we have to appoint? As I recall, this is like also the county ultimately just concurs with our recommendation. It's not, we're actually doing the appointment.
And associated cost.
Associated costs. But an election would be much more expensive than,
Correct.
uh,
But those will be the options, how much each option would cost. obviously.
Yeah. Equipment would be the least expensive. And it's kind of a question of how you advertise it, and, you know, there could be costs associated with advertising.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, I think we should contemplate a mailer to all the homes within 2 districts. But then we're gonna know about one. We know about one for sure. We are 99.9% certain of the other.
Yeah.
And,
Try one to cast some degree of uncertainty, but I don't wanna give it too much.
yeah,
So do we go for both at the same time? You know, if the clock is to do the appointment within 60 days, the board's notified of the vacancy, so, or the effective date of the vacancy, whichever is later. So I suppose, if the city council election goes the way we hope for Kathy's benefit, that would be, so it would be when she took the oath of office, right? So that'd be December 10th, and so that would be a 60-day clock from December 10th.
yeah, but
To make the
advertising, I
appointment.
mean, we could advertise on November 8th, probably, the results will be out.
Can we?
I mean, if the results is
We start
known,
advertising.
what's the point?
Well,
Then we
have,
advertise.
it takes at least a week to get 80% of the vote recorded and approved, type of thing. So typically, they have something the next day that has all the mail-in ballots, and then they have the following Thursday, they'll have one, and then they'll update it again. Usually, it's pretty well locked in by Monday. But unless it's really.
Yeah, we could advertise before.
Yeah.
Not like you're gonna
Yeah.
appoint somebody before, but,
I
Right.
mean, if she gets elected, she's not gonna change her mind.
right.
I mean, we could just do a postcard that says, we're notifying you region zone, not this division blank.
Division, yeah.
That there's blank, you know, like, and just mail it out to 2 different divisions when appropriate. You know, and just fill in the name, I don't think it's actually that customized, but just the division. I don't know that I wanna send the postcard out to 2 different divisions saying we have 2 vacancies.
Yeah.
I'd rather send out 2 different postcards saying we have 1 vacancy in your division.
Well, we might want to try and schedule interviews together or
Right.
something
Yeah,
like that,
that's
depending on
later.
how many
That's
people
later.
are involved.
Yeah, but the distribution will be the same cost, whether you do them at the same time, which we
Yes.
shouldn't do, or 1 and 1, you know.
So we can do postcard mailers. There's also, I think, a requirement
And,
to post in public places.
and the website.
Do that, a website. We could run in the Daily Journal, the Palo Alto Post.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those, if we do those are gonna be, we're gonna have to say we have 2 vacancies on the board, potentially,
Yeah.
one due to remove and one due to, election in a different office.
So maybe we
Well, if
will
we're actually starting them a month
later.
apart, then
How about that, next door?
love next door. We do
It's got-
not currently,
Good leadership, you know.
we don't
Do
currently
you
have,
want anybody that's actively on next door to be on this board, is my question to you.
No, but you do want somebody who
You
looks at.
you advertise.
No,
where
no,
you-
no,
the
no.
eyeballs you
If
want.
somebody reads it, then they will talk to somebody else that we would want, you know? No, but I mean, I'm saying it's because it's.
Yeah.
the leadership.
we don't currently have a Mid-Pen account on Nextdoor. We have individual accounts, of course, which I would prefer not to post this myself.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever posted on Nextdoor.
Is that goes to Belmont only, or it goes to
the smallest category is central Belmont, which covers most of it.
Yeah.
I don't, is there a
Because
East Belmont? I don't
Because the
think so.
Daily Journal, I mean, is gonna go up and down the peninsula, basically, right?
Yeah, they go everywhere, but not many
Not just
people
the
read it,
districts
so I'm not sure
Yeah.
that it's an advantage.
There's also Belmont City e-newsletter.
Yeah,
There's also,
they could put it on their banner head, just that there's an opening.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the one or two rounds of postcards is the best way, and the main question is, do we want to try to time these so that we're doing this one process once? Or do we want to time this as we're doing this process, when, right as soon as we go with Brian, and then we do it again, and we're potentially playing leapfrog. Because it sounds like we have a tighter time, a tighter window. Oh, I keep looking at Brian as if he's gonna talk, but he can't. We have a tighter window arguably on Kathy's than we do on Brian's. 180 days,
They're pretty close.
are they?
Yeah, right, because we've got October, November. No, yeah, you're right. Kathy's quicker.
I think we can wait on Brian to make a decision as to whether or not to go out with one or two. And then then to me, it seems like we, doing it all at once, one time through, interviews, everything, boom, 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 would be the best.
yeah.
And then we can sort of have one review of like kind of what kind of responses are we getting? Maybe we do 2 postcards or something like that. Because, I don't know.
So what I'm hearing is maybe it makes sense to mid-November advertise with the postcard, the first postcard. That will be after the election. So we'll know if we're sending 1 or 2. And then with the goal, we'll have to fill it by December 10th plus 60 days. So we have the holidays in there, so we want to plan for interviews to be kind of early, mid-January. So that we have time to go through the process.
Yeah.
Basically February, February
I
10th.
thought it said we had to get somebody in 60 days. The 90 days is if we leave it up to the county, right?
It's 60 days from when it's vacated.
Right.
So even though the election will be
Yeah.
known in November, the seat won't be vacated until December 10th.
Yeah, okay.
So that gives us that time. If I'm interpreting right.
That's correct. And do you want to create a committee of 2?
For interviews,
I would probably make it easier to schedule things if we had a committee of 2, but
instead of
3.
3.
I mean-
You can always bring the finalists to the full board. Or the 3 that are here. But you could weed them down
Mhm.
in a smaller committee.
I don't know how many applications we're going to get.
This is the downside we were fearing in district elections.
Yes,
Yeah. And we knew it.
Yep.
We knew it. We talked exactly the same language. If somebody were to leave, what we're gonna do, stuff. And now we're seeing up and down the peninsula, districts with no candidates at all.
No,
Yeah.
and then some with 3.
But it's just like,
Yeah.
it's
Burlingame
ridiculous.
got 1 that's
Ridiculous.
uncontested, and then 1 that has 3.
Yeah, but anyways, it is what it is now. Okay, so we need to set up like an ad hoc committee.
Yeah, the board chair can just, or president can just create the committee. It's always better to have the president do it than the board doing it, because someone could argue it's Brown Act committee, if the board creates it. So, and the president has the authority to create advisory committee, so you should do that.
So how do we do this in light of the fact that our typical ceremonial rotation would also be happening in December, would be going to her? And she's one of the candidates, it's not, thanks Kathy, for nominating all that Brian was simple, you just made it hard.
We'll
I
go to the
guess
next one.
you'd
Yeah,
skip,
no, I know, I'm being.
Yeah.
facetious.
yeah, skip and
Be
go
director
director.
later.
Um,
So do you want to appoint?
yeah, do we have any interest in wanting to be on the,
There's only 3 of them.
I know, well, if I get to appoint, it's you two. I can't appoint myself. Done is done. It's good to be president.
I'm surprised. Oh,
How could this happen?
Y'all were in the wrong seat at the wrong time.
oh, God. What an honor, thank you.
I was trying to go through the motions of actually asking, but why pretend? Well, no, I mean, seriously, does that sound reasonable? I'm happy to be involved in it as well.
So we are what, this, is it 5, 4 and 5?
4 and 5, yeah.
4 and 5.
And I do happen to know someone who lives in District 5. The person who serves on the mosquito district for Belmont does live in that, so I haven't talked to him. I find him to be a very reasonable person. So there's some
Town
potential.
water is much more interesting
So
than mosquitoes.
did Dwayne give up the seat or?
Oh,
Oh,
Wayne,
Wayne,
yeah, he did a couple of years ago. And so it's a man named Chuck Cotton who serves and has been for the last couple of years. He has also served on some Parks and Rec stuff for the city. He's essentially retired early, and he's a very personable person. He's a very people-oriented person. He actually has, kind of just for fun and because he's a foodie, he is actually a cheesemonger at Draeger's. He's an interesting person. I find like very reasonable. So unfortunately, he does live in that district. So I could certainly let him know
Yeah.
about the position.
Okay, well, I mean, I think we have a process. We don't necessarily have to finalize the review committee tonight.
Yeah. But
and,
we have a general timeline and we can work on putting together the materials to advertise and bring that to the board later, or the committee rather.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hey, Kirk,
All right.
welcome to the committee.
gee, just what I need, more committee.
Okay. Process, that's item 8E, 8F.
Another one where I have to talk.
Sorry, Kat.
Um,
It's only once a month.
except for when it's twice a month.
Yeah, that's true.
Let's committee. Okay, so looking ahead, the board decided to go back, stay on the previous kind of strategic planning schedule where we meet in January and kind of do it on a calendar year basis. So the goal is with all these other moving targets of board members and stuff, but let's see if we can schedule the board meeting or the strategic planning special session meeting in January. We can target that. I reached out to Julie Brown to get her availability and have some other availability. January's kind of tight. So kind of the days that I see as being just kind of the best in general are January 14th, 15th, and 22nd. January 22nd is the day before the regular board meeting. But I'd like to offer those up. Let's see if those work for everyone or 3 people or.
Do whatever you feel.
And
Okay, oh, that's right, now you can
Sorry.
talk.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll talk to the next topic. Good job, good job.
Kat was mistakenly making you feel included in that conversation.
Right.
I suggest a 10 PM meeting time.
For what it's worth, all 3 days work for me. I'm trying to stay on task, guys.
I'm
So,
thinking
the
someone's gonna
14th?
TP Brian's house.
Tuesday, January 14th. will
14th
work.
is good,
January
15th
14th,
maybe.
14th works. It's gonna be a long day for me, but that's fine. 15th works.
16th is,
16 won't,
That's
all
awesome.
I prefer Wednesday or Thursday just because Tuesday's gonna be a big day, it doesn't matter.
Thursday, I'm planning to take
That's
vacation. And it's Bosco,
Yeah.
so.
So 14 is
The
For me.
22nd is also an option, but it's two
14
meetings
is
in a row.
primary, 15 is
Yeah,
secondary.
let's do the week before.
So 14? 14?
Either one, 14 or 15 works for me.
Works for me too.
15 would be better for me. I'm in meetings all day on Tuesday, so I've got a much, just in terms of the day, but I can make it, because no one else can make it before the 15th.
If you're tired, maybe you want to throw your monkey wrench out.
Right. That's what I'm good at. So either way. There's a preference of the way, my preference would be 15. If,
You guys decide, I'll get paid to be here.
yeah. Something on the 15th.
I do, but I think I can change it.
If you got something, then let's just do the 14th, that's fine. I don't have anything, it's just I'm gonna be in meetings literally from 7 AM until 9 PM that night. So,
That's okay, that will.
that's okay for you, yeah.
I mean-
know.
No, I mean,
Right,
it's gonna be a meeting,
Thanks
I don't have to-
Thanks for telling me it's okay.
I said if it's okay.
Oh, okay.
If it's
Oh,
okay.
yeah, missed the
I
if.
was trying to be polite.
Let's go, 14th it is, let's move on, it's already
Oh,
9
yeah.
o'clock.
Exactly.
Oh,
Putting it on my calendar.
Same time? Or 6?
6.
We usually start.
We usually
early.
start at 6.
Yeah,
6, okay. That way Zuko will be really tired.
I'm gonna be exhausted. That's fine. Right. Done and done, receive Bosco update, your turn, Louis.
Okay. Bosco. We had the meeting on September 19th, Thursday, and obviously, as you probably all know, the most important thing was to appoint the new CEO. So that took basically most of the meeting that day. So the three main things that we outlined for that meeting was to enable legislation, which is the appointment of the general manager. And there was a lot of thank you to the ad hoc committee and members of the ad hoc committee, which I was one of them, and Barbara Pierce and the lady from Hillsborough and Brenda Bro for the ad hoc committee. So each one of us state our reason why we picked this new CEO.
Was it unanimous?
Huh?
Was it unanimous?
Yes, yeah, it was, yeah, after a lot of discussions, yeah, but finally it was unanimous, yeah. And obviously Nicole and Allison were also part of the conversation. So the CEO hopefully will provide a seamless transition that maintains Bosco operational excellence. And then the second thing was to negotiate to give us the authority to negotiate the contract with the CEO. And again, also we had to do the evaluation of Nicole, the last evaluation before she leaves the old CEO. And finally, the board has an item to resolve the issue of director compensation. We had a lot of discussions about this. So the chair proposed using a special debate rule. So we wanted everybody on the board to speak once. So nobody could speak twice unless everybody else is done speaking. So we would hear at least once from everybody. And so anyway, I encourage everyone to participate. And but anyways, eventually everybody spoke, and the decision was to raise the compensation from $100 to $200. So, big bucks.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's been $100 since the beginning, since 20 years ago. So somebody brought it up a couple of times before, and I told the chair, I said, you know what? You're not gonna get rid of this one. Let's tackle it, whether it's go this way or that way, but let's tackle it now, because we don't want it to linger. And so it was decided that they will, because so my assumption is that probably other boards will do the same thing up and down the peninsula, because those people who are doing so we need to probably therefore as well, because everybody who is doing the $100 stipend thing, they've been doing that also for probably 10, 15, 20, 25 years, easy. So, and then we had the San Francisco PUC report. Steve Ritchie kind of introduced it a little bit, and then Katie Miller, Katie Miller? Katie Miller?
The name's familiar, she like the capital project or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it was the first time she addressed Bosco, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, she talked a lot about the capital program, listen. And then we took the action, so the board adopted resolution 2024-02 to appoint Thomas Smeagol as the new CEO, general manager of Bosco, and authorize the board to execute an employment agreement with him. And we met in this conference room here, and we kind of hashed out his contract here, so that when we went over to the big board, it would all be basically done. And we explained to the rest of the board the way we did it, and we got a bunch of questions here and there, but ultimately everybody agreed, so we could move on. So the board approved the contract amendment to the CEO and the general manager and employment agreement effective September 30th, 2024, and revised the Bosco public availability pay schedule for the CEO. The board directed staff to bring back a revised reimbursement policy reflecting an increase on the board compensation to $200 per meeting and a 5-year review interval as soon as practical. The problem that this kept on going so long, and people are bringing it up and then it falls and then the reason for that is because we did not have a mechanism in place that we should at least every 3 to 5 years, we should look at it. Because otherwise it's gonna linger, it's gonna just stay there. And so now we have it in place that every 5 years we'll take a look at it. Whether it stays the same or goes up or changes, we don't know, but at least we'll take a look at it. So everybody would be, obligated to look at this at 5 years. Those were the main highlights. Then obviously the CEO made a statement, and there was a statement by the previous CEO, and so it was a little bit of a ceremonial thing. And those were the main thing, other than what Kat, you had at the water management on the tier 2.
Yeah, it was actually quite a short water management meeting, which is rare. But things are a little bit quiet. I did put in my GM report. So one thing the last time the board asked about was more about the scope of the 2050 strategy or strategy 2050 project. So I did include in that a PowerPoint that kind of describes the very broad, like so many topics and tasks they're going to cover. It is a big price tag. It's like a $2 million study. So there's a lot that they're going to address. That's in here for your reference. And let me know, obviously, if you have any questions. And then the other thing is the tier 2 and then the purchase quantity topic. So that's basically, we as managers have all come to a consensus on that. So now it's the matter of working with every agency to get them comfortable, answer their questions. Bosca, the purchase agencies, et cetera, having one-on-one meetings. We met, the finance committee met, and we went over both topics. I shared negotiations that we've had and all the questions we've asked and how they were answered. And so, on our end, the finance committee had their questions answered. And so I think we're comfortable on that side. So the next steps on that will be the minimum purchase quantity portion is an amendment to the water supply agreement that has to go before the SFPUC commission will go, and that's planned for, I believe, December. So they need to take action on that. And then it will go to each agency for adoption. So they want to hold the tier 2 amendment to go hand in hand, because the minimum purchase quantity agencies very much need that to go through for them to be comfortable with the tier 2. So the tier 2 is something that's decided amongst us as the agencies. It doesn't involve SFPUC at this stage of the decision, but the timing needs to be such that they all get considered and adopted at the same time. So the plan is, continuing to answer one-on-one questions from agencies in the coming months, and in early 2025 for each individual board and city to take action. So that'll be coming.
And then Steve Ritchie also talked about the water situation which you will cover, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, that's it.
All right, item H, the water situation.
Yeah, the water situation. So I'm gonna be very brief, just because it's getting late. The drought situation in California, you just haven't seen much at all, but just slowly look at the California map on that page. See, Matt's got it there. You just kind of slowly see the yellow, which means that abnormally dry. It's just growing. Last year it was like at 6%. This year it's at 54%. So it's just going to continue to increase unless we get some rain. But we don't know. The state and federal reservoir storage map that's in there, the levels throughout the state are all about where they typically are this time of year. So that's a good thing, because the previous years in the drought, they were a lot lower, which was not good. So they're still in good shape, and we'll just have to see what happens in the winter. The regional water system is a different story. We've got lots of water. We've got over 90% capacity in there. So we're looking good. And the big thing that Steve Ritchie will always talk about is the water bank is filled. So that's important to the regional water system. And then the last thing we'll just point out, just locally, we're in the downward slope of our water demand by our customers. And so August, actually, we're starting to trend down. But when you compare August 2024 with August 2023, the water use in 2024 was up 6%.
Yeah.
So that's good for revenue, but it's also showing our customers use a little bit more water. But again, our customers, they get it. They do a really good job, with their water conservation. We still get applications for Long Be Gone and things like that. So I see those things continuing. But overall, things are looking good. We'll just see what happens this winter. It's not supposed to be a real wet winter, but you never know. We don't know. Any questions? Any comments?
Thank you. All right, 9A1, financial report.
All right.
You have lots.
Yeah, I've got lots in here.
Yeah.
No, we've had 2 months of activity that I put in here, trending the right way. So the revenues for July were just a little bit below what we needed, but then they spiked back up in August. So we're trending just about where we need to be with that. Expenditures are a little bit behind on, or lower than what we had expected right now, mainly because there was one payment that we made in September for SFPUC versus August, so it wasn't captured in the August financial statements. The main thing that I want to, and then I reformatted since we've got a new fiscal year, we've got a new budget. I reformatted the capital budget summary on here, kind of tie into the budget document that we had approved back in June. But the main thing I wanted to point out this year was, now that we've got a new fiscal year, we have that new financial management policy with reserves that, we haven't really captured where we're at with those reserves. So at this point, because there is a more sophisticated investment strategy that the district has had, has got now, I figured I would just add in the reserve analysis on that treasurer's investment and reserves report.
That's great.
So that's basically reflects that working capital reserve is 100% funded. The capital reserve, we're about 46%. The pension and OPEB trusts, unfortunately, we can't reallocate those reserves to other reserves because they're based on specific accounts.
But they are fully funded, so there's no action that needs to be taken on there. And then once the capital reserve gets fully funded, then the next step is down at the rate stabilization reserve. So things are looking good. And then we've got that, that reserve analysis for you for, and that lines up specifically with the policy that we've adopted in April. So those are the main things I wanted to point out. And I have both months worth of information separated out on here. So you'll see in August that the capital reserve is actually at 61% funded. So we do have an amount that is not included in the reserves for that 670,000, and that's for the debt service reserve. So that's not in our financial management policy, but we do have a specific account for the COPs for that debt service. Questions, comments, observations?
You're no longer banished, Brian, you're with us.
On 244, it should be 8.33% instead of 16.67% at the top of the target.
244, I think that's the.
Oh, the target number, yeah, 16.67.
Top right.
Yeah, top right of that chart.
How's that page 244? I'm like, I don't.
Page 244, this one.
Oh, oh, you're absolutely right. Yes, I use the same, it should have just been 8.3%.
Right. You started with August, obviously.
I did, yes. And then Kat reminded me I needed to do 2 months, so.
I don't know how
agenda
these
report
numbers
is
come up.
251
Sometimes they make sense, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Which figure? This one right here?
Yeah.
Should be 8.3, because it's just one month.
Okay.
One out of 12.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Seeing no questions. District engineer.
Thank you. 2 active projects. One, we're wrapping it up. It's been wrapped up for a while. We're just crossing our T's and dotting our I's, which is the Harbor Boulevard improvements. We noticed an issue that cropped up. We're trying to work through it. I'm not prepared yet to talk about it in a public meeting, but I think we'll keep the board appraised of it. It's not that big of a deal. And then the second item or the second project, the DLNO, not that the 2x2 meeting on Monday or Tuesday, you didn't have enough stuff to talk about, but we did have an item that came up that's probably going to be a good agenda item for that meeting, which I detailed in my report. Essentially, we were asked to redesign a portion of the project because I think either the city overlooked it or maybe someone else looked at it and gave us comments after they had given us comments. So it's a good reminder during the meetings if we can talk about the benefits of good communication. We brought this up during our quarterly meeting with the Public Works staff and department. They have a new Public Works director there that started a month and a half ago, and she seems very positively inclined to continue the good communication or improve on the communication that we have with the 2 agencies. So that's all I have. I can dive into anything more that you'd like to hear.
Is there any reason stated as to the realignment?
Say again, Matt?
Any reason the city wanted the realignment? They just asked, it was just a comment?
Behind the curb, just for a portion, it was about maybe 25, 30 feet behind the curb. And it's a congested intersection. We put it there, and it's been there ever since the beginning of design. So when they saw it the first time it was there, we were getting ready to finalize the plans, and Rena, myself, Kat, Michael, we looked at it, we're like, gosh, you know, they didn't say anything about this, but it seems like they should have. And we didn't want to get caught in construction having them say something, right? And so we proactively sent it back to them and said, hey, you didn't say anything about this, but it just seems like, you know, are you doing anything at this intersection that would cause us to have a problem in the future? And that's where they came back and said, oh yeah, it might interfere with a future curb ramp that we're putting in. There's no sidewalks up there, but who knows?
Yeah. Sidewalks up there. Very good. No questions? Administrative Services Manager report.
I will make this short, sweet, and straightforward. It was a pretty busy August and September for me. Highlights would have to be, I was able to tour all of our facilities with Michael. So that was very beneficial to be able to have a tour with somebody who's been here for so long. I told him I was very easily amused and impressed, so he made sure to show me all of the very cool things that the Water District has in store for it. I also attended National Night Out. I was fortunate enough to eavesdrop on Rena while he was talking to all of the community, so I picked up a few little tidbits on Hetchechi and where we get our water and all of that good stuff, so I'm ready when the community asks me. So I also attended the CSDA conference with Kat in Palm Springs. It was a very beneficial conference for sure, but if I never have to go to Palm Springs again, I will be happy. It was way too hot for me, 110.
Wow.
Wow.
Go back in the winter. It's like
It's lovely in the winter time. It's like 78.
I've never been there when it's hot.
Oh.
Oh, it's like
My
walking into a wall.
Well, my mother-in-law doesn't live there anymore because we had to move up here, but yeah.
I lived there for 9 years.
Oh, no, no, I would never.
Yeah.
It was like 76 or something when we flew down on Friday.
So the process of ADP, which is our payroll system for all of our employees, I know that that was a pain in the rear end for quite a few months. I did an analysis of it. I went in and I audited exactly what we are paying for versus what we are using. And I will say that we are not utilizing a good majority of the ADP app that we are paying for. You can see the costs that I've associated with it for the past 3 years, or 4 years, is about $56,000 of money that we've spent on the app and the program that we haven't utilized. So with that, I've been working with Liz, who is our ADP go-to person and payroll. And we've been working on actually utilizing all of those apps. So I am very, very happy to say that as of today, the last part of our initiative to get a more seamless process, more online process, was just implemented. And the last part of it will be for Liz and myself, but mostly for me to support Liz in presenting to all of the district staff some of the new features that we're going to be using. So we'll see how that goes over. I know that the last time that we had spoke, I talked about how I live my life by processes. And so during one of our admin meetings, I exampled what exactly a process is and what we, benefit from having them and whatnot. And I gave an example of one of the processes that we created for SFPUC. So going forward, everything that happens within the admin staff will be associated with the process with supporting documents when necessary. The records management policy training, I was fortunate enough to be asked to present to staff and train them on this new policy. So it was very engaging. I think that at first staff were a little shell shocked on what exactly goes into records management, but for the most part, I hope that I made it fun enough that people absorb the information. I gave an outline of how I presented it. So you can always reference that. A big undertaking right now is revamping our evaluation process. Our employee evaluation process, from what I can see, has been the same for quite a few years. And it's very outdated in regards to best practices. So right now it's gone through Kat. She's been looking at it. Rena's going to be putting his eyes on it. And then as well, I'll have Michael and Misty also look at it and give me feedback on it because it's definitely a community effort for sure. One key aspect of it that we're hoping to initiate is that employees that have been here for over 10 years, is it a necessity for them to be evaluated every year? I mean, obviously, the supervisor could deem it necessary for them to be evaluated. But if they're not necessarily needing to be evaluated that year, what can we go into? Well, we'll go into a smaller kind of evaluation, which is more of a self-assessment, goal-oriented meeting between them and the supervisor. So while still meeting the evaluation every year and being able to receive a merit process, it'll be a little bit less strenuous. The personnel manual, yep, still working on it. Because we're updating quite a few things, personnel manual is just kind of being updated as we figure things out. So that'll eventually come at some point in the future. The Granite Kiss peak transition, I will start training next week to the new platform. Who's excited? I am.
I am tired of knowing.
Exactly. And then something that I will be focusing on going forward is something that's really kind of hitting home in a lot of HR departments is the retention, the employee retention. Right now, from my point of view, I think that we're in a really great spot because not only are we fully staffed, but we're fully staffed with some really good employees. Now, how do we keep them here? So there's a lot of strategies and things that we have to implement regarding like succession planning, making sure that the culture and communication between us and staff is, you know, seamless and welcoming and cohesive and teamwork and all of those good adjectives that we should use to describe the culture within our district. So focusing on retirements that are coming down the pipeline in a couple of years and making sure that all of that knowledge is somehow being transferred to everybody else, especially all of our newbies. So with that, I'm done.
Thank you very much. Now, operations manager.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be as long as,
Well, that was brief.
I was busting it out.
The thing that I wanted to point out in the operations report is we had a vehicle that had a transmission failure. The transit van is our only van in the fleet. Jonathan typically uses it, and just one day he was driving down Ralston and he heard just a clank, right? And this is a front wheel drive, so it's a transaxle. And he had to pull over the side of the road, and somebody had to actually push him to help push him to get out of the way. We had the vehicle towed over to the yard, and Stan was taking a look at it, talking to some of the shops, and said, look, it's a transaxle failure. It's gonna run about $8,000 on the cheap side. And you know, Stan, that van's, you know, it's 10 years old, we're almost 10 years old. It's probably not worth fixing. So I talked to Kat, and with our financial management policy, because that vehicle was purchased under $25,000, she has the authority to surplus it. So that's what we talked. We're just gonna report out to the board that we're gonna look to surplus to see if somebody wants to buy it. We're just not gonna spend $10,000 to fix that van. I just don't think it's worth it, unfortunately. So that's the thing I want to point out. I mean, if there's anything in here that I've got that caught your attention, I'll be glad to try and answer a question you may have.
Go lease and e-transit.
Yeah, we've got a couple of hybrid pickups coming, the small ones, the Ford Mavericks. We ordered them months ago, but they're just so popular that they said that they'd probably get here sometime in October. So I'm waiting to hear from the Sacramento Ford dealer who's got the state contract.
Where do you advertise to sell something like that?
We've been using, it's been a while, but an outfit called govdeals.com.
Oh, for
They deal
But it
only
looks
with
like
local agencies.
Somebody who likes to tinker with these stuff would probably buy something like that.
You'd be surprised at people that use that site to buy all kinds of stuff that
Yeah.
was at a state or
Okay.
local government agency. I mean, from desks to, you know, road graders, you know, just all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd be surprised, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody buys it. I don't know what we're gonna get for it. Probably not gonna be a lot, but you know, the van's it's got a nice rack cage in there for putting things to carry around the yard. It's got a streets, it's got a backup camera, so it's a little bit more outfitted than just a typical van. It's just that transaxle is just expensive to replace. That's my story.
Great. General manager.
All right, I already covered several of these items. mentioned that the capital improvement plan is up on the website, the final one. So you can look at it. If anyone wants a hard copy, let me know. We'll get that printed. If you want that on your desk. We have the 2x2 meeting with City of Belmont scheduled for Tuesday. Director Bella and Vice President Jordan and I met before this meeting to kind of do our pre-meeting and come up with our items that we want to talk about. So hoping it'll be a really good and productive meeting. I mentioned how we toured the micro grid in Menlo Park. That was really helpful. The tour was arranged by the company I mentioned, NG. And so it was really just good to see it in action and kind of understand more about what this looks like and how it can come about. Staff training, there's a few things. Allison mentioned the records retention management plan training that she did. We also had a day of website training. Tammy was here as well as John Davidson, and did kind of the general for all staff, what's the website, how to use it, and then individual trainings for people with different roles, and how they interact with the website, including updating it. That was very helpful. We also had Clint K-Mac come and do an updated disc assessment and productive conflict training. I think I mentioned half of our staff is new since I joined. And so most 9 out of 21 people hadn't had the disc training, and that's such a good tool and such a good language that we use to interact with each other. So we had him come do an individual disc training for everyone who was new and hadn't had it before, and then the rest of us came together and we had a training on productive conflict. So that was really good to keep that going. Others are just kind of updates. I will be starting the Aqua JPI leadership class that several had taken before, including Rena has done it, Tammy did it, Michael and Misty both have done it. So it's a year-long thing with 4 in-person sessions. They're both like a Thursday, Friday over the course of the next year as well. So, monthly webinar. So, but I've committed to starting that. And that's kind of, I think that's the highlights. Any questions? A few attachments. You have the strategy 2050, a survey actually following the Clint K-Mac session. It was incredibly well received by the staff. So this is an anonymous survey, so there's the results. And then also actually I included the Aqua advisory talking about all of their wins on legislative items if anyone's interested in just kind of seeing more about what's been happening at the state level.
Yeah, we had a couple of meetings with Notre Dame and with the city fire department. Can you
Yeah.
say a little bit more about that?
So the ones with Notre Dame were related to the Folger project. They're of course our neighbor. One thing we've identified as a potential benefit for our project is right now there's only one means of access to that site on Folger. Historically, there actually had been an easement and a road through our property to Notre Dame. So we're looking at establishing an emergency access road that will go through their campus. Of course, it's complicated because Stanford has considered purchasing it. So now you have, Stanford, you have Notre Dame, and you have also the city to kind of coordinate with. But Stanford is actually beyond thrilled about that possibility because it solves a problem that they had already identified in needing themselves. They only have one means of access. So it would be the goal is emergency access only, but one that could benefit both of us. So there was conversations around that. The other one, fire department, that was because there's the specific plan area. And this is something that Juben highlighted is if, the specific plan is envisioning development in this area and kind of an intensification of use. Let's just check in with the fire department and make sure they're not planning to change the fire flow requirements due to the different building types and whatnot.
What is the specific area?
This was for the San Carlos one. The San Carlos one is the San Carlos portion of the HIA. And we'll have the similar conversation for Belmont too, but they did confirm that they have no intent to change the fire flow needs, that the current requirements meet, I think they said 80 to 90% of the, existing and intended
Needed.
buildings. So anything beyond that would be, they're comfortable having that be a requirement for the developer. if
I'm
they have that.
curious, who did you meet?
Janice Chung,
Yeah, she's pretty young.
fire marshal,
Yeah.
she
Oh.
worked with Redwood City,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. And also, as far as training, you've been on the Hetch Hetchy tour, right?
I have not been on the Hetch Hetchy.
Don't forget that tour is very even for like Allison. It's, I think probably, especially the management staff should go on that tour at least
Yeah.
once in their career, you know.
Word has gotten out that it's a great tour.
It is,
And
yeah.
it's hard to get a slot, and they actually prioritize elected officials, so I have not gotten a slot yet, but
Yeah,
I'll keep
but
trying.
I had a slot and I gave it up this time. I went already, but I had a slot because I'm gonna be out of state. But next time I'll reserve a slot and then I'll give it to one of you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would love
If
to
it's
go.
gonna be difficult to get a slot, yeah.
I would definitely love
But
to go. on.
you should, you know, at least once, because that gives you a good perspective of actually where the water in the tap comes from and how, you know, so.
I've got on a couple of Water Education Foundation tours, which
Yeah.
is obviously different areas, but they're
Yeah.
so helpful.
Yeah.
To actually go see the infrastructure and talk to people.
Good. All right, that's it, thank you.
Director supports, Director Schmidt. Nothing. Director Vella.
I'm back. Stay for a while, yes.
The report. No.
Nope, that's it.
HIA started up again for the fall. So they had the group coordinator, who's a real estate guy, gave a discussion about industrial and office space in the peninsula and what was going on in the market type of thing. And the general takeaway is that, yes, there's not enough office space and there's too much industrial space, but it's all the wrong stuff type of thing. Pardon?
Not enough industrial and too much office?
What was it? It
Yes,
was,
too
oh
much
yeah,
office.
there's too much office
much
and
office.
they have done speculation office space and it's all going to waste type of thing. They're not getting a lot of office space offers. So there's rental numbers are coming down in terms of how much you can rent office space.
Yeah.
But industrial is getting converted to office, so there's less and less industrial around. There are a couple of cities that didn't have any industrial basically. So, you know, the type of thing we would like if we wanted to put up a new warehouse just aren't there as options. Well, that was what we found when we were talking about trying to replace Dairy Queen as alternatives, was that just wasn't that around. And that's continuing to go on. But they were talking about some of the residential as sort of the sideline that Carlos from Belmont was talking about, which is a number of projects that were going ahead have sort of said, well, it doesn't look like we're going to do that for a while, type of thing. The three new buildings out of Oracle, or the three buildings they were talking about at Oracle site, are sort of indefinite hold type of thing. And you know, some of the new low cost or low income residential stuff were sort of
Affordable income.
affordable, you know, are sort of, they're still talking about them, but they may take longer than
Yeah.
they talked about before.
Yeah.
Although Belmont has a couple of them, we're
Money-
going ahead pretty soon.
Money is more slightly more affordable now, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's interesting, he mentioned that there were some market rate apartment developments that have been put on hold but are shifting to low income because there's funding available for those and not for market, and not a market for the market rate. So it's really interesting that
We also
we
get
could
out of
see.
all kinds of city requirements if you have affordable housing, like
Yeah.
finding parking and all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's likely if we see
So money
housing,
available
it's gonna
from
be affordable.
agencies like HUD and agencies like that.
Well, the state has a bunch of money they're putting into it, and it's getting distributed down to the county level. But, yeah, so the whole biotech sphere is sort of
Softening.
softening.
Mm. The money down, yeah.
Nothing.
Nothing. All right, communications,
None received.
nothing, all right. Well, adjournment tonight is a little bit solemn. Louis and I spent a number of years with Director Chuck Wagonseller. Louis far more than I. I don't know if you wanna say anything about Chuck.
Just a couple of things. When I started, Chuck Wagenseller was the president of the board. And in those days, we did not rotate the positions. The position, he was president for 3 years already. And the one before him was president like for 12 years,
Wow.
Ed Morey. I don't know if you remember the name, Ed Morey.
It's a shadow on the wall somewhere.
Yes, he was on, he's on the wall somewhere. So it used to be like the president and the vice president would stay until I came on board and alternate. We were new. And we said, this is not right, you know? So we started doing the rotation. And that's when the rotation started, you know? And he was the last president that had successive year together, you know? And he was a cool guy. So the board at the time, we used to, there was appointment, but we used to wish that on the board there would be people who were engineer, financial people, public safety people. So we looked for that, you know, at the time, but now it's totally different. But that's what we looked for. So and he was an engineer. He worked for PG&E for many years. Really very analytical person, and you know, he was a great guy. And he loved to go to the aqua conferences. He never missed one. And so we used to have a good time for those conferences. But it's sad to see him go because he spent a lot of years with the district. And his daughter one time ran for city clerk of Belmont, but the city clerk used to be an elected position, you know. And so he was very involved, you know, with Belmont. And then when Belmont celebrated the 75th anniversary as a city, I mean, we had this water district truck, you know, it was all decorated, and all the board of directors were. I still have pictures, you know, and Chuck was just in the forefront of it, you know. So,
Yeah, how long was he on the board?
20 years.
what, 20?
Yeah, that's what it says in the JPI. announcement anyway.
Yeah, he was on the board for a long time. So because he was under Moria as a president for a long time, and then he took over, and it was expected he was gonna stay that long, and then we had a discussion and go like, this is silly, you know, to have the same person all the time. So we started rotating.
It's interesting, before he passed, we had somebody from Aqua JPA come visit us. They actually came here and I gave the guy a tour around. He wanted to look at some of our sites from an insurance perspective. But he was telling me that Chuck was getting ready to retire. So they're getting ready to have an event for him over there. And he goes, I know he was on the board here. And he goes, I remember hearing you guys had pictures of all the board presidents. I go, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Could I get a copy of Chuck's picture? And I go, we took it down because of the flood. And I don't know where the pictures are. So we weren't able to give him that, and I'm assuming they may have had that retirement party, and then shortly after we heard that he had passed.
Yeah, it could be.
But he was working. He was in his 80s. They said. I think he even said.
Yeah, because he left here.
Yeah, he
We
was
started from PG&E and started with JPI. Yeah.
very active.
Good. So yeah, good guy, good
Full
man.
life. That's what I remember. Always smiling, always at Aqua, every single time. Him and Alter. Wouldn't miss. So
Yeah.
I think he was here for a few, 3, 4, 5 years before then he left, since after I joined.
Oh, yeah, you were with for about 5 years?
Something like that. That sounds like about right.
He was here from December 1987 through 2006.
I think I joined in like 2004, 2002. Anyway,
Yeah.
we're going to adjourn this meeting in Chuck Wagon Sellers memory.
So,
Yep. Bye, humans.
Good day.